My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
It is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. The entity is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The entity is maintaining criminal surveillance at the facilitating venue, which the federal government is engaging in. This is the federal government that is a sex offender, the federal government that is a stalker, not conducting a legitimate investigation. Understand that that's what sex offenders that are in the position of government, that are engaged in this unethical, inhumane, and unconstitutional experiment in the lives of American citizens who are being targeted. They call this targeting system things such as deceptive labels such as investigations, where there is no actual investigation. Corrupt governments are engaging in what is targeting, and it's also sexually perverted. The entity is gang stalking with the elderly at Woodside Senior Apartments under the fake sun, which I captured in images. And its zenith, the fake sun is in its zenith over Woodside Senior Apartments over Apartment 51. It's not in Los Angeles, which would be the location of the sun with regard to the natural environment and at the same time of year, and also the ability to identify same time of day, that which would be substantially similar. There is nothing remotely close to maintaining a mutual zenith in two different regions, and it's not a coincidence that it's over me. And I documented that, which is supernatural beyond a coincidence. It's a pattern. And amongst this pattern, the demon possessed at Woodside are gang stalking. The federal government is directly engaged in that sex offense while they are still gang stalking on April 3rd, 2025. The ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment is underway while I'm subject to monitoring in an apartment where the government has no legitimate interest in keeping an American citizen under surveillance. Certainly monitoring, no legitimate government program or investigation or surveillance is underway where monitoring is ongoing, and that's what the government is doing. You need to know that the government is practicing satanic means of targeting. It's a sex offense. It's also inhumane, and this is what the federal government is doing in concert with the population. This is getting to the public corruption factor. And the government is still engaging in that while I remain at the facilitating venue, clearly shown through the engineered light that's moving on the walls and the ceilings inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, while surveillance is underway by the local government, the state, which the federal government is holding hands with that state, engaging in what is a nationwide system, a nationwide ongoing corrupt system that I am exposing in California, where I remain subject to it. And it is also the demonic environment and the demonic practices, which is serving for the unprecedented prosecution by both the people of the state are going to experience that prosecution, and so is the government. And it is also necessitating the removal of sex offenders that are hiding behind the names of government agencies, hiding behind positions that they've been given, where they are nothing other than sex offenders and seriously sick sex offenders that are mentally unstable. And they're also very criminal with regard to the things that the government is doing in the name of resources that are expended in unlawful means. There is nothing legitimate about the inevitable amount of money that is spent on using resources and manpower and the devotion of these agencies that are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. There's no legitimacy behind it, and there is no making that legitimate. And this needs to be understood with regard to what is the actual focus of the U.S. government in this country, and it is this ongoing surveillance system that is enabled, facilitated, underway through many of the things that you're identifying at, such as social media, by the way. What you are identifying is just the way of life, especially in the United States. And it's the surveillance system that is underway, and it's merely like Satan, that Satan, which is a spirit that likes to present himself as an angel of light, this satanic surveillance system that's underway in what is supposed to be the free world, the leader of the free world, the United States of America, is occurring in what is under the malicious guise of appearing and calling it something else, such as the social media platforms, such as the use of law enforcement agencies that are exercising authority under the Constitution that is used to prostitute and exploit constitutional rights and constitutional authorities that the government doesn't actually have, while it's engaging in this satanic and fictitious means of authority in the United States, where we're not different at all from third world countries. In fact, this is the hypocrisy and the malice whereby the United States government is engaging in surveillance and engaging in violating human rights of American citizens and kidnapping them, and then calling it the operation of the criminal justice system, engaging in what are unfathomable and never before contemplated bases of sexually violating someone, not just a stalker following you into a bathroom, but it's a whole government that's keeping you under surveillance in a bathroom. And for what? Why would you even be utilizing government resources and manpower in a bathroom for one person, let alone a team of people, but for one person? The government is maintaining surveillance in bathrooms. The government is a sex offender. All right. And one of those agents is Jason Isaac Fields, and this is also somebody that is demon possessed and is still spiritually attacking me, is a part of the ongoing course of conduct that I remain subject to. This is the federal government that has not ceased to engage in targeting me, and this is the same state that is acting and is relying on the perverts and the high school graduates, the unethical and corrupt gang stalkers of the Ontario Police Department. They are the same entity acting with the unemployed, depraved degenerates that are gang stalking at Woodside senior apartments. It is the federal government. It is indistinct with regard to the superficial veneer with working in a position where you're paid by the federal government, and when you're unemployed and collecting Social Security at Woodside senior apartments. With regard to the condition, which is identical, these are demons, and this is a system of public corruption that is accomplishing surveillance in an apartment where the government has no legitimate interest in me and my life and my life's details, particularly in the bathroom either. And this is where the entity is engaging in that ongoing system. It's 12:46 p.m. Amplified booming is heard inside of the apartment, while a whole bunch of obsessed sex offenders who are obsessed with me, obsessed with what it is that I do or don't do in the bathroom, which is none of the government's concern. And admitted sex offenders concern themselves with that. And then demon-possessed people who concern themselves with that while they're stalking and are obsessed with you, create a whole narrative in their mind while they are experiencing what is their obsession with me, regardless of the lies that those demons tell them about me while they are stalking. Under all circumstances, stalking. The entity is engaging in this sick and demented system, which is the liability of the government, who is no hero. Understand what is happening to the government. The government is being exposed. The mask of the government that is a sex offender, that is a stalker, that is engaged in inhumane experiments amongst upon American citizens, and I am speaking to it. The government is not a hero. The government is not a partner in its own exposure, and that needs to be made abundantly clear. All right, it is currently 12:48 p.m. We're amplified booming. That's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, which, again, the state acting via AVANATH Capital Management, and both aspects of that gang stalking entity is going to be prosecuted. This is P.O.C. on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. It is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, and the entity is pacing under an idle fake sun, license 22547T1, Unit 41, pacing at their front door under the fake sun, holding an instrument in reference to the minor children that they gang stalk with, while the city of Ontario joins in on that with the sound of the Union Pacific train. which again, the Ontario train tracks that has a schedule that Amtrak utilizes that is published to the public, that is not so loud that when you're on it that your ears would be bleeding, such that the entire city, including in your apartment, would ever hear the train. The entity is doing so while I'm walking around under the fake sun that's at the same position where the same demons in Unit 41 are pacing around me at 10 in the morning, and the fake sun is over the same exact vehicle that is at the front parking spot, and this is the means whereby this same sex offender, which is the people of the state, are gang stalking right now after 4:30 in the afternoon. No, excuse me, the current time is actually, it's not 4:30, it's currently 4:19 p.m. At 4:30 on video, you will see the fake sun over me in Los Angeles at my leasing office. Again, where that license plate that I've recited is a means of identifying the people of the state that are in access of children while they are gang stalking at a facilitating venue where the city is participating in that citywide effort of gang stalking. And this is, again, sponsored by the federal government. The entity is doing so with regard to engagement in the U.S. government's pattern of conduct that 225471 is engaging in, with a demon that is using a vehicle entering under the fake sun into the same parking lot, surrounding with light activity, surrounding under the fake sun that is not at the same time over the people of the state in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, who are gang stalking with LAPD, like I documented substantially on this day in 2024. 7X82385 is gang stalking in a Ford F-150. That's the city of Ontario. That's an elderly male with a mustache, wearing dark glasses, crossing path under the fake sun and gang stalking with AVANATH Capital Management's occupants in unit number 41. They are doing so while the entity uses the Union Pacific train. Remember, that's the Union Pacific, which is, again, using the instrumentalities of interstate stalking. For the instrumentalities of interstate commerce, rather, for engagement in the criminal elements of monitoring. And the entity is doing so to facilitate surveillance, to facilitate sexual violence, to facilitate stalking a woman, to facilitate domestic terrorism. And this is what the federal government is inherently engaging in. You will see the fake sun that is over the same tree that it is over at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, while I'm at the same exact apartment complex where you saw the sunrise here at 7:34 a.m. This is where those sex offenders are engaging in the ongoing obsessive and psychopathic effort of gang stalking. These are those of it doesn't make it less sexually violent. It doesn't make it less psychopathic. It doesn't make it less criminal when you have females gang stalking, which is a violent sex offense, but you need to understand that these are males that are in operation accessing these vehicles in the parking lot, which is their means, the demon-possessed means of walking outside and surrounding me, getting in the path, because they're all walking in engineered light. Engineered light that also fills Tracy Banks' apartment, which is not the product of any sunlight, where the sun is on the same day sitting over me in the sky space, where I'm able to capture that whole object that remained there all day long, both from sunrise until at this point while I'm still on the job at work at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. And it's still over me at the same building, 1810 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6. That's where Union Pacific, which Amtrak uses, and the entity is sounding amplified train activity as I walk outside in operation of my phone. This is what, again, federal agencies and the entity that is gang stalking through with psychopaths that have championed the criminal and psychopathic effort to try to defame my character while abusing positions that psychopaths, sex offenders, demon-possessed people that practice witchcraft while having a position of government. And this is the reason why someone like Jason Isaac Fields is engaging in what is federal group stalking and monitoring, and then calling their sexually perverted obsession, their criminal engagement, their service to Satan a means of investigating myself when I have committed no crimes. This is how the federal agencies are engaging and facilitating that pattern of conduct. And this is what the city of Ontario is participating in. And it is, again, sponsored by very much the federal government that has unclean hands and is hereby forced to prosecute and expose itself, is what is essentially the problem that I am being targeted by, and I am exposing it, and my documentation is what proves it, as opposed to the government that has, again, infected is infected as an agency when you have unethical, corrupt deceitful and duplicitous actors such as Jason Isaac Fields, who is still gang stalking. This person is still practicing witchcraft. This person is still engaged in psychological warfare against me because this person is aware of the body of evidence that I'm publishing. This person represents the government, having a position with the government, and is abusing that position with the government. And I am simultaneously documenting it. So this is relevant to the ways in which the entity is going to be comprehensively prosecuted. This is relevant. The federal agency is relevant to the Ontario Police Department. That's the state terrorizing me and flying in circles, stalking, obstructing justice with regard to my documentation efforts, and the government that is bearing weapons, using helicopters, doing something as ridiculous as stalking as a police department, and doing so while I am in the midst of documenting. This is, again, the disdain for outlawing and exposing domestic terrorism. This is the federal government's fault. I want to make sure that that's clear, because the federal government is supposed to be the the enforcement, whereby you are capable of walking in what is the actual constitutional rights that you maintain intact, and put the state government in its proper perspective with regard to domestic terrorism and psychological torture. But you need to understand the state government is doing what the federal government is doing throughout this country. This is the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, and I'm exposing it as I live and remain and travel about in California. And this is what agents like Jason Isaac Fields, who are unfit and disqualified, not only because his engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring is going to be a plain removal from the position that you have, but also you need to understand, with regard to this pattern of conduct, this is demonic. And what have you learned about the demonic? The demon-possessed who are gang stalking, they are severely mentally unbalanced. Their obsessive engagement in gang stalking me right now through the municipality. This is a government that's using so much. I have not conspired to blow any buildings up. I have not committed any crimes. I have not engaged in any sort of anything that would even include the federal government's legitimate interests. In order to, there's a lot of money and time and manpower that's included when you conduct investigations. These are things that are ostensibly used for purposes of handling the business of the people, making sure that the things like public corruption are not capable of existing. When the government's gang stalking, like the federal government is, the United States government is, like officials, corrupt officials, perverted and psychopathic officials like Jason Isaac Fields are, you need to understand that the expenditure behind that, and it trickles down into the state. And you have what is the corruption that I'm calling out. The governor of the state of California, the gang stalking mayors. These are oxymorons. Every mayor in the city of California is engaged in gang stalking. And the entity is doing that which the federal government operates. And it is being referred to as something which is, again, a malicious guise for trying to cover. I am reporting and publishing and documenting. The federal government, in other words, knows exactly what it's doing. I am somebody that has exposed it. I was subject to it, and they were not able to overcome me with it. I am essentially presenting the federal government's crimes to itself. And the federal government has been put in a position where they have to respond and admit to their unclean hands. After still in real time, still trying to kill me, still gang stalking, still engaging in what is psychological warfare. And one identifier is, again, somebody that is by position exposing what is disqualification because of the severely demented mind state of a demon-possessed person that is gang stalking. And this is somebody that has a position in government that they're not going to hold on to, and that is Jason Isaac Fields. This is someone who is a psychopath. This is someone that went to the extent of having sex with my mother. My mother is a quote unquote handler, intrinsically engaged in targeting me, conspiring against me with all of those who I know. Jason Isaac Fields is someone who I formerly associated with, is a part of what is abusing a position that he has, and he is still engaging in that. He is still engaging in abuse of the position that he has. And he is representing an entire agency, just like Jonathan Burnett represents an entire agency, the Ontario Police Department, that is fully devoted and committed to ongoing the criminal pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. That is exactly what is represented with regard to the filthy hands that Jason Isaac Fields has, and the history of acts that he has committed, speaking to and relevant to what I'm still documenting, even as I walk outside right now and the fake sun is over me, in a manner that points to the statewide pattern of conduct as you're mindful of what's happening in the sky space at 4:35 p.m. on April 3rd, 2024. I'm at Alvarado Gardens. I'm walking out, opening my office door, just like I did as I came down to the office at 8 o'clock in the morning on this day, 365 days ago, where in that natural environment where there's only one sun that does not sit idle over one apartment building all day long or one apartment complex all day long. You have what is the supernatural, as I am showing you where the sun is a year ago at the same time and where the sun is now while I'm here. And you also know that while I'm here, the sun is here at 7:34 in the morning. I even proved it and captured yet another video of that. And you also know that at 6:18 p.m., the sun is here because I documented that. And the entity, and I documented that within the last week or so. I documented this. This is with regard to the specific environment. You only have to capture it once because you will never have the sunrise and the sunset at the same address, 408 West G Street in Ontario, California. This is where psychopaths that are gang stalking with a federal agency, whose employees are engaging in the pattern of conduct even to a personal level, including having a sexual relationship, a marriage with this heavily documented psychopath, Tracy Banks, who is also obsessed with me, obsessed with my genitalia, obsessed with me along with the strangers whom I don't know, but they know me because of the demonic spirit that occupies them and inspires their very sick and demented, sexually perverted, and criminal pattern of gang stalking. This is what is relevant behind the criminal acts committed by this corrupt actor, Jason Isaac Fields, and that's why I'm continuously referencing, this is in reference to a federal agency that is engaged in the criminal pattern of conduct with regard to what the federal government, this is the U.S. government pattern of conduct. And I also want to be clear, federal jurisdiction is already applied because of the nature of the crime. The entities engaged in surveillance on communication devices is including instrumentalities of interstate commerce in the criminal pattern of conduct, using the trains, using planes and helicopters. They're crossing state lines, as I've even documented, going from California to Nevada, being in the state of California and conducting any business where you are somewhere from outside of the state of California, engaging in what is the pattern of conduct on the venue of the internet is also implicating what is federal law. And the entity is under all circumstances engaging in the U.S. pattern of conduct because of your ability to recognize what it is that I've shown you. The specific environment is directly relevant to this satanic system of surveillance, which does affect and impact your privacy, which is a fallacy, it's a fiction, and also the surveillance that American citizens are engaging in violating, are engaging in keeping you under surveillance. That is stalking while it is underway, evident through an environment that defies nature, such as the sun being over my head at Alvarado Gardens at 1810 North Alvarado Street at 4:35 p.m. and it remaining over my head as I document it's 4:31 p.m. and demons are pacing around in the parking lot, coming outside of their apartments, driving in through the gate into the parking lot in order to stalk me in the path. That's called relevant positioning, while the city of Ontario is also providing ongoing evidence that they are still committed to gang stalking in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, while documentation is underway in furtherance of the federal government's agenda to have no appropriate, legitimate, constitutional basis to target me through the city of Ontario, while the amplified train sounds, that which Amtrak uses and that which is not going to be heard in the parking lot or in an apartment home. If you've ever been on a train, I know I have. I've been on the Amtrak train where they were gang stalking me, and you can barely hear the train horn sounding. It is not something that's going to be so subtle and non-intrusive and something not disruptive when you're on the train, but yet it's heard throughout the city, because this is what the entity is suggesting when I'm merely walking outside. But you also know that that's demonic, and it's the evidence against Amtrak, against the city of Ontario, and against the demons who are pacing around me under what is the fake sun that cannot be over the sky space in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, and over in the sky space shining through Tracy Banks's patio glass door, like I am capturing in the images on yet another day, because I've already proven what is the P.O.C. I'm speaking to those who are actually irrelevant. Jason Isaac Fields is not a key factor. Jason Isaac Fields is a puppet of Satan. Jason Isaac Fields is a demon-possessed and corrupt actor as you get into prosecuting what is demonic activity, and it's demonic activity that's underway amongst a government. The government that's engaging in this demonic system is engaging in what is a matter of public corruption by its entanglement with the people of the state who are engaging in that demonic activity together. That demonic activity which is designed to monitor, that is to sexually violate and offend, and also to keep under surveillance by stalking in an environment that is also demonic. That is the public corruption that the federal government is engaging in and is incentivizing and is seeking to conceal while continuing it. And this is why people like Jason Isaac Fields do belong in a mental asylum. The lengths to which this state actor has gone, including having engaging in a marriage with the elder Tracy Banks, who is psychopathic by virtue of reference to the documentation. She begins cackling, laughing from ear to ear, while the very incriminating evidence and the egregious and disturbing acts that she's committed become entertainment for the demon that she calls on the phone as she is engaging in monitoring in her apartment, and she is laughing about that. And this is the same one that wants to falsely depict my character as being one that cannot deal with reality, can't take care of myself, and is missing a couple screws. And literally my documentation shows that she is very severely mentally ill with multiple personalities, presenting one depending upon who is in her presence, who she is aware is in her presence, by the way. This is the same demon that took off her pants and decided to pace around in the kitchen with no clothes on. And this demon very well knows that she's being documented. So that is speaking to both malice and also a psychopath that is both desperate and is desperately engaging in what is monitoring in service to Satan. These are demons that are using people, and it includes the demon-possessed gang stalker who is a corrupt government actor, a public official that is not conducting any legitimate investigation. This is somebody that is fully aware of what it is that I am exposing about him and the federal government, he has fully been engaging in, and I am not the only person. I am the only person that has withstood it and has proven it, and I have literally prosecuted even outside of the federal government's stubbornness and inability to openly admit what is defeat, because that's Satan, by the way. That's Satan. But this is nonetheless an inevitable prosecution of the government. Even as you have mental health patients in Unit 41 at Woodside pacing around, it's the prosecution of the federal government, who knows very well, what it is that I am reporting about it. You're essentially telling Satan what Satan has done. Satan knows what Satan is. Satan knows what Satan's committed. Satan is doing things against you and seeking to blame you for it in one way or another. Hence criminal defamation, which psychopaths, sex offenders, criminals, unethical and corrupt government officials like Jason Isaac Fields, who are actually irrelevant to me in my life, someone that I do not have any relationship with, I have no desire to ever physically see. This is somebody that represents a threat, and his criminal acts committed against me in concert with those who are formally associated with me, and that includes Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer and everyone else that Jason Isaac Fields may or may not have actually had sex with, engaged in sex rituals with, while they were both worshiping Satan. And then he's using his job in the government in order to abuse it and criminally defame me, which is in furtherance of the gang stalking pattern of conduct. So while I am documenting, and while I have been documenting since 2018. This is speaking to what the federal government has been doing the entire time. That which the federal government has no legitimate interest in, and that which the federal government has no constitutional authority to engage in. Everything that the entity is doing, it is doing in concert with the state. The state that is surrounded with evidence, and it is also shown through that specific environment. The entity is also engaging in this with psychopaths who need to be removed. They shall be removed. They're not maintaining. That is, again, federal and any other federal agent acting with Jason Isaac Fields. They are acting in furtherance of committing murder and criminal defamation. I want to be clear, this ongoing unsuccessful campaign against me, my history, my reputation, who I am personally and professionally, which I want to be clear, again, the government has no legitimate interest in. I've never committed any crimes. So this quote-unquote investigation in the first place is an admission to criminal activity. Never, ever forgetting, it will not be forgotten in the prosecution of the state. The investigation, and I put that in air quotes, that was needed to rectify all of the so-called lies presented against me, lies to aid in the crimes committed against me or to set me up for crimes. This quote-unquote so-called investigation is that which never had any legitimacy in the first place, and it is an ongoing means of perpetuating the same pattern of conduct. It is that which is under no circumstances helping the ordinary target individual, because it's the government in the first place that's gang stalking. This is the only way that demons like Tracy Banks, with a high school graduate, has any ability to even engage in this size of a conspiracy against me. This is the only way that this person, a high school graduate, Tracy Banks, has any means whereby she can, behind my back, have any sort of ear to give any sort of credence to the clear and obvious lies that are nothing other than vacuous wishes about who Tracy Banks thinks that I am. And I want to be clear, you do not obtain a power of attorney over someone in secret. That's not how it's acquired. You do not need to secure things such as a power of attorney behind the back of the person over whom's interests you want to govern. That is something that you can do, and especially someone like myself. So under all circumstances, the entity, as you can clearly hear me communicating, as the documentation clearly shows a consistent body of evidence, as the evidence proves that there is no hallucination, there is no mental illness on my part, there is no fabrication of anything or any detail, nor do I need to, nor have I ever been that deceitful or duplicitous or just like that type of a loser who just goes around making up information. That's what demons do. In that same way, where my credibility has already been established, in other words, and where the evidence speaks for itself, and the evidence also speaks for the person that put that evidence together, that is me. It needs to be understood, and it's relevant to the prosecution of the government, the federal government, that never had any basis to engage in the P.O.C. That's how you get acts of criminal defamation, such as a law of power of attorney, and whatever other fraudulent means of secretly controlling that which belongs to me, stealing that which belongs to me, defaming me on paper while kidnapping and manufacturing criminal charges, manufacturing mental illnesses. The government at the outset has been engaged in the pattern of conduct, and the government, while still engaging in the pattern of conduct, is now calling it an investigation in order to provide justice. It is the same P.O.C. It's the same actor. It is the same exact actor, the federal government's P.O.C. And those whose hands are filthy dirty, covered in maggots, that is this witch, Jason Isaac Fields, one whom I am aware of and who I know, and I don't want to say no. Of course, I don't know this person. I did not know that this person enjoyed sex with elderly people whom I'm blood related to. So I didn't know this person clearly. I did not know that this person was mentally ill. I did not know that this person had a psychopathic personality disorder, which is proven by his engagement in this pattern of conduct for no legitimate or rational purpose whatsoever against me or any other person, especially as a government actor. The government has no legitimate interest to engage in this criminal system, which it is proven to be engaging in. All I serve is the ability to point out a personalized means of identifying gang stalking, and the gang stalker happens to have a position in government, and the gang stalkers whose position in government, who never had any legitimate interest to engage in the very same pattern of conduct that they are engaging at the outset, and now when it's been exposed, i.e. the P.O.C., my documentation, the federal government never had any intention of voluntarily exposing itself. Neither is any investigation the act of the government admitting, oh, we're wrong and this is what we've been doing, and it happened to Erica Spencer, and this is the justice that's not what the quote-unquote investigation is. The entity is still gang stalking. The entity is still engaged in obstruction of justice. The entity is still monitoring documentation. The entity is still suppressing evidence about it on the venue of the internet, where the people of the state are sitting up watching it like it's a television show, like this is the Truman Show. I want to be clear, that's that sick psychopathic mind state that the average American citizen in California has. The sick people that are watching and even creating content on the internet, speaking about things that they know nothing about, while they steal ideas my ideas that are being suppressed on the internet, while people are then parroting that which they never thought of. Beware of all of that. But I want to be clear, in the same way that any person that doesn't actually love Christ or know him can repeat the gospel, even if they're repeating the gospel in order for it to get riches, they are still hearing the gospel. And that's why I'm going to leave that in the hands of Christ Jesus, who knows every stealing, lying demon, every fake prophet, every covert tarot card reader, every thieving content creator. He knows who all of them are. Every gang stalking federal official. Every sex offender calling themselves engaging in what is an investigation into my allegations as I publish it online. It's no investigation. It is the federal government that's been gang stalking me the whole time, and it is not a legitimate investigation, and it is going to be the prosecution of that government who has been forced to admit things that they never had the right or constitutional authority to do in the first place against somebody who has fully already established in their own right, and that's myself, that I suffer no such I suffer no fools, first of all, and that's why I'm prosecuting the demons who I know by name, but I'm prosecuting the demons who are the people of the state of California. The people of the state are nothing other than the government. It's the government. That's how you have gang stalkers at Woodside Senior Apartments, around Woodside Senior Apartments, in the sky space above Woodside Senior Apartments, sounding train activity far away from Woodside Senior Apartments, okay? And engaging in the pattern of conduct of targeting me still while there is no legitimate federal investigation. The federal government is engaged in federal group stalking monitoring, and the federal government is going to be subject to what I stated from the outset. Okay, no gang stalking Ontario Police Department is going to remain, and no gang stalking federal official is going to remain a part of any federal agency. And justice requires that. Neither will they be mistaken as any hero. You look at the body of evidence that is the P.O.C. from 2018 to the current 2025. No federal agent is standing holding any of my communication devices, capturing that footage of the fake son. They're not standing in the way and stopping the Ontario Police Department from kidnapping me, from physically assaulting and battering me, from stealing my property. They're not stopping Tracy Banks from engaging in criminal summoning, from physically attacking me, and then telling the gang stalking police departments that I attacked her. The federal government is nowhere around engaging in any means of what is protecting my liberty rights when I'm on the job, subject to the same exact pattern of conduct, enforcing my rights, documenting it on my communication devices, explaining the significance of what it is that I'm documenting, and then creating what is a formula whereby you can prosecute and enforce your rights to any other person that doesn't have a legal skill set, because you do not have to be some sort of rocket scientist recognizing the specific environment and enforcing your rights against a government that clearly has no constitutional authority to do what it's doing, and publishing it on the internet. The federal government and no federal agent was there. They weren't sleeping with me, beside me on the sidewalk. They were sleeping with my mom, actually. They were engaging in sex rituals together. They were hailing Satan when they thought years ago that their sex rituals were going to work against the child of God. That's what Jason Isaac Fields was doing. Jason Isaac Fields still worships Satan. Jason Isaac Fields is abusing a position in the government. Jason Isaac Fields is not conducting any legitimate investigation. Jason Isaac Fields is gang stalking me and psychologically targeting me with the demons who are at Woodside Senior Apartments in the city of Ontario, engaging in that ongoing ineffective and defeated campaign still. And why is that? Because the mentally ill, including Jason Isaac Fields, who was a corrupt government actor, who brings shame on the federal agency that he is a part of, that he was never qualified for. He prays to Satan. He engages in sex favors. He affiliates himself with whoever it is that he can in order to get whatever opportunity that he can. That is literally prostitution. This is somebody that is not equipped or qualified under any circumstances. This is somebody that tried to sacrifice me because he thought it was going to benefit his career. That's what's a part of a federal agency going by the name of Jason Isaac Fields. That is somebody that is not a hero, that is not a friend, that will never be in my presence. And it will be understood and appreciated how much of an unlawful threat that the government has been posing my entire life. And becoming a big girl and a grown-up, I'm now prosecuting it. And it includes the federal government, who is being severely prosecuted while I step outside. And that fake son is over me at Alvarado Gardens. And that fake son remains over me as I'm documenting today in 2025 at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the federal government's engagement in the P.O.C. is proven through amplified train activity and pacing psychopaths under the fake sun at Woodside. And the federal government's very unintelligent and openly openly malicious endeavor to call any sort of investigation into my allegations anything other than ongoing criminal facilitation. The federal government knows exactly what it's doing and what it's been doing. Those are the psychopaths that are and everyone having anything to do with it, they will be removed from their positions. You will not engage in terrorism in the United States and remain as some sort of government official. You're not going to transfer to a different department. You're not going to move to a different coast and then join the sheriff's department over there. That's not happening. You are out of any sort of government. You're talking about a threat to the public. You're not even capable of bearing a weapon, having a gun. That's how much of a threat you are. And this is, again, the mental health case that is not only Tracy Banks, but her husband, Jason Isaac Fields. This husband and wife who are demons targeting me both together in the spirit, and they're targeting me, gang stalking me, and they're both sexually obsessed with me. And these are spirits. This is proven through their criminal engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is a matter of tangible evidence that's going to be used against them and against the state of California. Speaking to many of the collateral harms committed against me behind my back. While the whole time behind my back, while they're engaging in ineffective and literally irrelevant sex rituals and getting married and trying to steal property that belongs to me and trying to criminally defame me on paper so they have this whole broad scheme of she's going to do this and she's going to she's going to crash out here and she's going to freak out there, and then we're going to have the health check, and then we're going to kidnap, and then we're going to keep her there, and this time it's going to work. There's no sign she can hold up in the jail. We're going to keep her there, and then we're going to walk off into the sunset with all her property and have her legally adjudicated as being somebody that's out of her mind, right? This is what the demons were planning behind my back. Well, I've been documenting from 2018 to the present about a criminal system that I remain subject to date. The federal government is not going to be some sort of, I don't know what, well, I do know. The federal government, the entity, the demons think that they are going to, quote unquote, investigate, and then in front of the cameras, in front of the public, claim at the same time that they are engaging in justice. They are still gang stalking me to date. So were the entity to commit a quote unquote raid, were the entity to commit a, what is a quote unquote providing justice and stopping this criminal system from continuing any longer as I remain subject to it, it's the same federal government that's been gang stalking the entire time. All right, so this is again the lunacy of what the federal government has committed, and those who are being permanently removed, those who have sought to falsely depict my character, those who are so desperate, so defiled, so corrupt, all right, so disqualified from the way in which they want other people to see them. Agents like Jason Isaac Fields. Okay, who literally used the time that we used to spend on the phone talking together. I was the only friend in that exchange. This demon was not my friend. I was his friend, and he was at all times seeing how he could prostitute that association with me for his benefit. And it included jumping on top of my mother and having sex with her, whether he offered it, whether she offered it. It really doesn't matter. Those two are alike. They are kingdom spouses in the kingdom of darkness. They are of the same spirit. They are of that same spirit of perversion. They are of that same spirit of all things corrupt, doing anything, and the ends justify the means. This is speaking to corruption within the government, and demons need to be removed, as the prosecution in the state of California shows. So the entity is engaged in this P.O.C, and I want to make sure that's why you will see the image of this sex offender, of this corrupt government actor, Jason Isaac Fields, who is no government actor who's going to unilaterally change his identity and his level of participation in what is an inhumane and unconstitutional violation of not only a human being, but an American citizen. You don't get to, in that same position, then change the narrative while you are thinking in your mind that you're thinking this in your mind because you're delusional and you're in a position of abuse, and you've been accustomed to altering the lives of American citizens whom you have violated before me, and somehow controlling that narrative while you're controlling resources, you're controlling information, you're controlling the quote unquote alternative facts. That's not what's happening here. The facts are already on the record. It is the P.O.C.
And that's something that you're going to have to deal with, while you are on the other half remaining the entity that is gang stalking, trying to behind the scenes change the narrative, which is not going to overwhelm the evidence about what the government is doing. It's not going to alter the narrative regarding who you are and what it is, why you've done the things that you've done. And that is, again, in furtherance of gang stalking me. It's no coincidence that you were having sex with my mom, who's gang stalking me as well. And I want to be clear, Jason Isaac Fields is just one actor within a corrupt entity. But this is an obvious one who needs to be have the whistle fully blown on him. This is somebody that is perhaps in custody of property that belongs to me. That is a tragic injustice that the federal government is going to compensate me for, that the federal government is going to answer for. This is somebody that permits what is somebody that is clearly unethical and corrupt and disqualified for engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring at any level, to maintain a position in government at all at this point, including while I am documenting and have even uttered his name. He should already be outside. You're talking about what is at the very least, but my evidence supersedes that. But at the very least, probable cause to be removed, having what is a conflict of interest, being literally incapable of engaging in what is an actual, legitimate, dispassionate, and unbiased, quote unquote, investigation. There is no actual or legitimate investigation where the entity that is itself conducting an investigation is engaged in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. The duplicitous act of calling that an investigation is criminal facilitation. All right. The entity is doing so while I remain subject to it. Literally, the evidence of the fact that I'm still being gang stalked is that which is speaking to the liability of the federal government, who is mandated to stop terrorism immediately, terrorism that it is engaging in. You're not ignorant about what every mayor in every city is engaging in. You're not ignorant about what every county sheriff and police chief are engaging in throughout the counties in California. You're not ignorant about the evidence that's being published on these social media platforms about what an entity that is monitoring somebody, stalking someone, is publishing. You're not ignorant about that. You're not conducting an actual investigation. All right, so I want to be clear. This is relevant to the way in which the entity is going to be liable, criminally and civilly liable, regardless of how unprecedented it is, no matter how much the government wants to avoid it, no matter how much the government tries to overshadow with literally irrelevant. It's irrelevant. There's no actual legitimate investigation behind what the government's doing. It's the government's criminal pattern of conduct. They know what the Ontario Police Department are doing. They enable it. They rely on the Ontario Police Department to do it. I was not supposed to withstand it. I wasn't supposed to maintain my sanity. The entity's gang stalking me was supposed to drive me crazy. It was supposed to, if not drive me crazy, create an accurate, not an accurate, because an illusion is not accurate logically. They were supposed to create an effective and persuasive illusion of mental illness. And that's all the corrupt entity needs. They just need to make you look like you're crazy, and they'll use that. And then they'll have corrupt actors sign off and certify on that creation of that illusion. They'll kidnap you in order to maintain and manufacture that relationship. This is how this corrupt system operates. There's no actual investigation. The federal government knows what's been exposed about it. And we are on yet another day, April 3rd, 2025, where the federal government is gang stalking me still. And you have a bunch of sickos that are online, and they are not prophesying anything. This is the same pattern of conduct. All the demons that are sitting around gang stalking me in relevant position, these demons are then hopping on social media and creating content, and they're sitting back in amazement, talking about making content, in other words, essentially profiting off of what is entirely sick and what is not pleasing to Christ at all, in case you want to know. And he also does not appreciate lying on his name, and he's going to personally deal with that. As I'm prosecuting, you need to be aware the Lord is going to deal with that. He doesn't take very kindly to twisting his words. He gives his messages to specific messengers. And if you called yourself interfering with that message, you can count on being visited by judgment. You can count on it. And nobody can do anything about that. That you can count on that. He does not, there's a very specific reason why he has messages, and he uses a specific person, his prophet, his messenger, to give that message. You have people out here that have made
content while they're stealing my content, suppressing my content, and then essentially providing content that's in response to, or not even in response to, addressing that which nobody else has ever done. So who else are you talking about? Regarding situations that are never going to happen, because I'm never going to cooperate with any federal organization that was gang stalking me. I will never be agreeing or compromising or negotiating with any gang stalking entity. I will not be signing any NDA. I'm not removing anybody from the body of evidence. I'm not doing any of that. And the entity is going to be barred by law from being in my presence because of the unlawful threat, because of the terrorism that they're engaging in. And they're doing it in real time, okay? The pattern of conduct is occurring in real time. So it's currently 4:57 p.m. where the entity is keeping the fake sun like I documented. At 4:35 p.m. on video at Alvarado Gardens at 1810 North Alvarado Street. And inside of Tracy Banks' apartment at 5:15 p.m. The entity has what is both the engineered light that you've already seen glowing on the wall, on the patio glass door, in perfect alignment with her patio glass door, in conformity to the demon's unintelligent admission to gang stalking while you see the fake sun at this hour. This is where the fake sun is rising. So for the fake sun to be over me and these demons walk to their vehicle in the parking lot, that's a gang stalker who is obsessed with my genitalia and is a sex offender and is still in custody of minor children in Unit 41. Is pacing under the fake sun that's over the same tree where it is at 10 in the morning where him and his baby mama, who's also obsessed with my genitalia, are gang stalking under that fake sun. That's where the fake sun is in the parking lot as I walk outside and document. And demons with the license plate driving the F-150 are pacing together. It's an ongoing concerted effort of demons, male and female, who are gang stalkers, violent sex offenders, who are doing the bidding of the corrupt government, stalking me in the path, making sure they're surrounding on my west side, surrounding on my east side, surrounding with amplified noise under what is a fake sun, gang stalking. And that's the significance of what fills Tracy Banks' apartment. And this is while I am in the midst of documenting in real time. And at 5:15 on this day in 2024, April 3rd, the entity is keeping the fake sun as I captured that on video, 5:30 p.m. on the same day, April 3rd, 2024, I'm documenting the fake sun as I am walking from my office up to my apartment. That's on video where the fake sun is not only remaining, it moves as I move back toward my apartment building 1806, where that is evidence of what is stalking with the fake sun as I am in the workplace. I am at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the federal government, with the incompetent demons that were not capable and not able to secretly accomplish the sacrifice to Satan, which is the purpose of the demon-possessed gang stalking you. It's a sacrifice to Satan. They weren't able to deliver on that. And the demons who are of the corrupt government, who leave it to the lower level demons in order to accomplish that, the entity is still gang stalking while the federal government is being faced to admit, essentially, while it is admitting to things such as investigations, which are in air quotes, because the federal government knows exactly what it's committing in the state of California. They know the significance, they know the substance of my documentation, that it is simultaneously suppressing. It is not an investigation. It's an unlawful delay. The federal government is engaging in what is already an inherent conflict of interest. The federal government is seeking to obstruct justice against itself. The federal government is engaging in that while an American citizen has not only done their job and has forced them to tell the truth about what they are and what they've done and what they're still doing. And they're doing it through the imps that surround me in Ontario, California. All right. So I want to make sure that that is clear. It's currently 5 p.m. where the fake sun is remaining, and engineered light, which has nothing to do with the fake sun, that is at the same address. But the engineered light inside of Tracy Banks' apartment has nothing to do with that fake sun. It's the evidence of the understanding your surveillance that you are subject to. Wherever you are in this country, or in the natural environment, you never would have had any sun in the sky above you, because the entity engaged in that ongoing documented federal offense of domestic terrorism and psychological torture, which is federal group stalking and monitoring, proven through the supernatural environment that I documented today at 11 in the morning, where the fake sun is over the top of my head at Tracy Banks' front door at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, California. And as I step out after 4 in the evening, which it is currently 5 p.m., and the fake sun is over the same sidewalk. I'm at the same address. I'm at the same apartment complex. I'm standing on the same sidewalk. And you will see the same environment, which is speaking to the very highly unintelligent, and it's the rest of the world can see that. And it is the embarrassment of the United States government. Okay, and not only for engaging in what is such an unintelligent and obvious way of identifying in a way that they never anticipated would be obvious, but also it's embarrassing because the federal government is associated with Satanism. It's associated with sexual violence. And this is not the first time that the federal government has done many egregious things throughout history. And this is another one that is going down in the history books. And it is federal group stalking and monitoring. And the entity is doing so while it is, again, against an American citizen who is in real time maintaining a detailed catalog of evidence, because I fully intend to enforce all of my rights, even those that the federal government is not prepared to realize and recognize. But that's not the federal government's authority to do that. All right, so it's currently 5:01 p.m. This is P.O.C. I will capture images right now of the fake sun and engineer light. Alrighty, it is still Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. This is documentation regarding criminal obstruction of justice by the people of the state on the venue of the internet that the federal government is relying on with regard to suppression of evidence. So do not be fooled by the name of the venue, which is YouTube. YouTube is the people of the state. They are a third party. They are, again, nothing other than a means whereby the government is operating, and the government is operating through the name of some sort of brand, just like Amazon Prime. That's the government that's gang stalking under the fake sun at 5:03 p.m. Like I documented on April 1st, 2025. It's not an independent or constitutionally protected private act or any legitimate operation of a business. It is federal group stalking and monitoring happening at the facilitating venue in the specific environment. The specific environment where surveillance is underway, which is federal stalking, Title 18, 2261A, subsections 1 and 2, where I am being kept under surveillance and everything that I do is under surveillance, including documentation against the federal government, is published online. YouTube is a third-party facilitating venue where surveillance is indeed underway and where the federal government knows all about what I'm publishing on YouTube. And YouTube is a third party that is also engaging in federal offenses, protecting psychopaths that are psychologically torturing me, that are sexually violating me, that are gang stalking me, criminally harassing me, and terrorizing me, in concert with the entity that uses sheriff's departments to kidnap, police departments to kidnap, uses hospitals in order to defame, while they are engaging in an ongoing obsessive and desperate effort to kidnap, defame, and ultimately all of that is just to do nothing other than silence me. Because the demon-possessed knew before I started documenting the fact that I would at some point come into the knowledge of what it is that I'm subject to and my ability to recognize the spiritual source, which is satanic. This is, in other words, what am I describing? The demons, that is Satan himself, was already threatened by who I am in Christ and my abilities that Christ has given me. This is the explanation if you want to know why would the government just target you for no reason. And this is, again, a part of how important you are to Christ. First of all, you're not a nobody, you, whoever you are. You don't have to have the the ability to discern spirits to be some sort of special person. It's not rooted in that. You are special because Christ himself, he created you. And not only that, he loves you and he died for you. But apart from prosecuting, the entity knows who I am, the demon-possessed, who are seeking to maintain an ongoing narrative in the world, okay, and also in this country, and want to silence those that don't conform to that. That is myself. And I'm not some rebel. I'm not somebody that's going out here trying to support and spread anarchy. I'm minding my business. I actually support the constitutional system, and I studied political science and went to law school to engage in what is a practice law and enforce rules and policies and procedures. I love that. I'm minding my business, in other words, but the government is threatened by who it is that I am spiritually, my abilities, and the demon-possessed Satan is focused on that, and Satan knows that. And Satan also thought that they could just suck that spiritual gift out of me. They've watched too many Disney movies, all right? And that's the deception of Satan. They've seen one too many Disney movies. This is not Maleficent, okay? This is not The Ring. This is not the Poltergeist. Whatever these demons, whatever spell books they're reading, whatever tarot card readings they're getting, palm readings they're getting, you are not sucking out somebody's God-given spiritual gifts from a child of God who is serving Christ, moreover. That is never going to happen. They've seen too many Disney flicks. This is pointing again to mental illness. Now, all I'm getting at right now is the motive behind a bunch of psychopaths who use a whole government operation to target an innocent American citizen. And that's the significance of being stalked by strangers who know exactly who you are. They also are aware of and have an indication regarding your spiritual ability to know who they are. That's why they also go to the extent of trying to stalk you, monitor, terrorize you in a manner where they can falsely depict your character, where they know it's your spiritual gifts. They know that you know that they're demons. All right. No, but anyway, aside from all of that, I'm prosecuting based on facts. I'm not prosecuting based on discernment. The entity is engaging in the P.O.C. and the entity is doing so with regard to the venue of the internet. YouTube is a third party, and I am subject to surveillance on the venue of the internet. And YouTube doesn't act as a third party facilitating venue, is operating maliciously in the same way that Woodside Senior Apartments is operating maliciously as though it's a private residence, and it's not. It's a facilitating venue, and I'm going to prosecute it accordingly. YouTube is not some private business, is not exercising any privacy rights with regard to strifling through evidence. That's the only means whereby an American citizen can protect their own life and well-being and expose what a government is subjecting them to. No third party is going to interfere with that ongoing federal investigation, regardless of the fact that the government disrespects the legitimacy of that investigation. But then at the same time, they want to call their gang stalking efforts an investigation. It's not going to be that way. They will be prosecuted, and they will be prosecuted for the malice with which they're engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it is occurring on the venue of the internet. Now, the entity is engaging in this, and I want to make sure that I speak to the pattern of conduct that is underway online. YouTube is a third-party facilitating venue where I am subject to that pattern of conduct, and that pattern of conduct includes the criminal act of obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice is occurring online in the form of interfering with the investigation by any bases of removing it's evidence. All of it is evidence. And also, not only that, I've gone to the extent which any person would do and any prudent investigator would do. And why am I forced into this role? Because the federal government itself is corrupt. Because the federal government itself is the criminal. The federal government itself is interested in my demise. And so, in maintaining my own fact-focused, dispassionate investigation regarding what it is that I'm subject to, that I have to prove, and then prosecute the actual criminal, the state, which is acting within the United States government's P.O.C. So to that, in using the internet, because the courts are not a venue where you're actually getting justice. The court is the venue where the corrupt government is criminally defaming. This is what demons like Jason Isaac Fields, abusing his position, has committed with high school graduates like Tracy Banks, who relies on her genitalia to recruit more demons, to spread that Jezebel spirit, where people will feed into her lies and facilitate and target me for no legitimate reason. Gang stalking me for no purpose at all. There is no legitimate purpose for gang stalking, by the way. But this is what I'm speaking to when the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and this is pursuant to what is spiritual, that which you can't see. These people are engaging in this inexplicable level of criminal conduct because these people are all demon possessed. Okay, and I'm not going in court having to prove anybody's demon possession. That's legally irrelevant, actually. I am prosecuting based on the things they committed and the malice that is clear upon understanding how a pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring operates when it's the government that is the stalker. So the entity is on the venue of the internet where you are relying on that in order to literally protect yourself. Okay, and protect and also document every step of the way where the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with the intent to facilitate that P.O.C., to threaten you, to obstruct justice. And also the entity, the government that does that also wants to conceal the fact that it's engaged in all of that. Okay, so this is the P.O.C. that I am subject to, and this is what is relevant regarding what YouTube is doing online as I am subject to it. And I want to go ahead and recite those facts regarding Camden, where I am I remain subject to the pattern of conduct in 2024 inside of my apartment, where Camden maintains no constitutionally protected rights whatsoever to gang stalk me in the path at Alvarado Gardens, where the P.O.C. is underway, nor does she maintain any right under the people of the state's operation of a venue on the venue of the internet, which is nothing other than a third party where the government is the one that is interfering with, first of all, your speech rights. You have maintained a freedom of speech right to not permit the government to target you and you not publish evidence about it. The government is literally whatever venue you're at. The entity that is gang stalking, they don't have any privacy rights. That's the government that's stalking you in helicopters and in airplanes and police, fire, and ambulance vehicles. That's the government that's gang stalking you in Uber and in Lyft vehicles. That's the government that's gang stalking you living next door to you at the Alvarado Gardens apartment. That's the government that's gang stalking you operating access transportation vehicles. And they are all tied together in the specific environment and engaging in the identical behavioral pattern. So now you're getting to what is nothing other than name calling. The demons that are working for the government by virtue of receiving a paycheck and having an official position. And the government that's gang stalking you by obsessively surveilling you as the population that wants to present itself as being the civilian population, as the Constitution itself is exploited by the corrupt entity altogether. That's nothing other than a superficial distinction. It is the entity that has no privacy rights. The government doesn't get to put on the costume of my neighbor and then avoid being documented. The government doesn't have any privacy rights. The government doesn't have any warrant or probable cause. And the government's not going to hide online using a social media platform. The government's not going to hide in the neighbor's apartment at that address under their name. In the same way that the police can keep you under surveillance by going in with the consent of your neighbor to keep you under surveillance inside of your neighbor's apartment. They don't have warrant or probable cause to do that. It is still all evidence where and the entity is doing that when you haven't even committed a crime. But let's say that the entity is doing so to investigate you for a crime that they suspect. They still are doing it unlawfully when you've committed no crime. There's no warrant or probable cause, and they can't go into your neighbor's house in order to keep you under surveillance and do so in a close means like they are gang stalking via the people of the state, for example, at Alvarado Gardens and at Woodside Senior Apartments. The demons are doing the same thing with regard to the population under the fake sun and engineered light, monitoring on communication devices. The government's acting directly and vicariously, okay, in violation of actual laws, the state and federal constitutions, okay? So when the entity is online on a third-party platform such as YouTube, removing evidence, by the way, of the entity itself that doesn't have any privacy rights. So not only are they maliciously exploiting the Constitution while they are as though they are private citizens, which they're not. They're gang stalking. Okay, they know very well that there's no privacy, and they're violating your privacy. And then you are engaging in what is violating the targeted individual whose life is literally subject to a real-time ongoing threat, and then protecting that person that is gang stalking in furtherance of committing murder and theft and criminal defamation. Because that's what Camden is doing while she's gang stalking me at at Alvarado Gardens. And Camden, by the way, that's not incorrect. Camden is still being documented while I'm at Woodside, and the same pattern of conduct that was underway at Alvarado Gardens is underway at Woodside Senior Apartments. Camden is still being prosecuted because this is the criminal system that she was engaging in when I was documenting her. And you do not have any privacy rights. This is the government, again, that cannot handle what it is that it has initially dished out. And it's being proven as psychopaths even when its criminal system is used against it. Okay, this is the significance of that, and it's 5:14 p.m. The reason why I'm referencing the time is because you will see the fake sun blaring in all of its brilliance through Tracy Banks's patio glass door, the same patio glass door that I'm looking at 7:34 a.m., where the fake sun is literally on just my, while I'm facing south, what will be my left side, which is nothing other than the east side of the same apartment, where you'll see the same elderly woman from Unit 47, license 8GEN638, gang stalking. That's a psychopath that's just over 55, and that's a demon that's using an overweight vessel that's leaning on a cane, and that is no distraction from the demon-possessed gang stalking conduct, stalking in the path and maintaining presence in the path in that supernatural environment where the sun is not at the same time, contrary to what you will see on this day in 2024, because at 5:15 p.m., You will see the fake sun as I open up my office door, and I am walking out looking at the same exact light source that never went anywhere on this day. And it would never be the natural environment on the same day, 365 days later, that is somehow over Woodside Senior Apartments, shining through the patio glass door at that, while it's outside of my office door at the same time in Los Angeles at 1810 North Alvarado Street, the leasing office at Alvarado Gardens. That is not the perfectly lined sun from San Bernardino County to Los Angeles County, from my office door to Tracy Banks's patio glass door, that's causing sunlight inside of Tracy Banks's living room as it's piercing through underneath her patio covering, coating the patio glass door and piercing through the living room in order to touch the same east living room wall. The same light that's framing that front door inside of Tracy Banks' living room when that fake sun is on the east side of the same front door, like I documented at 7:34 a.m. Like is the case on a cloudy day, like is the case before the fake sun even quote unquote rises, not outside of the living room of a building 1806 in Los Angeles that's facing the hillside, but it would be outside of what is impossible to be over apartments 33 through 48 at the same time. Understand how the entity is gang stalking, and this is the entity that is also engaged in what is understanding gang stalking is a term of art. Gang stalking is that which is facilitated in the courts. Okay, you're gang stalking when you're engaging in and entertaining what is a fictitious prosecution. It's the system of gang stalking. Gang stalking is in reference to an overarching system, all right, that is operating at different levels of sophistication. This is why you have people in the quote unquote hood, all right, in the ghetto, gang stalking while they can't even afford to pay their rent. All right. And then you have people that are gang stalking amongst those that are at the higher income brackets, like I documented in San Diego, California. All right. And they're gang stalking. Guess what? Those people that make a lot of money, they're obsessed with me and my genitalia. And we're sitting around gang stalking me under the fake sun. No one has forgotten that either. And this is what is relevant with regard to surveillance that's online, where gang stalking is underway, like is proven while the fake sun is at 5:14. You'll see the images as I will upload it to the Google Drive. And then you're mindful of what's happening at the same time on this day in 2024 at 5:15 p.m. And it's on video. The video is 14 minutes and 40 seconds long, where that is not the sun, where the demon in Unit 47 is on a cane, creating light activity and crossing path, is a violent sex offender over 55 years old, and is focused on me at her advanced age. She can't even walk, nor can she pay her rent, nor can she engage in anything other than focusing on me, when she has a lot of other probably health issues that she should be more concerned with. But she's gang stalking me, and you know that's her concern, because the whole supernatural environment surrounds her. And this was the circumstance while she was doing the same thing earlier in the day, when you're looking at the fake sun feet away, which is over the tree in front of this same apartment where I'm at. That's non-movement while it's over the tree during the 11 a.m. hour, or adjacent to the tree. And at 5:14 p.m., it's out of the patio glass door. This apartment that I'm looking at, the front door, the window, this apartment is 600 square feet long. This is not a large apartment at all. So I'm merely just turning my body to look in the west direction, and the entity is keeping a fake sun in the same exact location. You can see it reflecting off of the building that I'm inside of, off of the window. That's not the sun that's over me while I open up my office door at 5:15 p.m. And that's what's relevant to the gang stalking that Camden is a gang stalker, an African-American woman who is engaging in this egregious sex offense, who is engaging in this system of psychological torture, who's engaging in this criminal facilitation. The federal government's facilitating, and the people of the state are facilitating together while they are gang stalking me at Alvarado Gardens in the way in which I'm proving again, while you can see and juxtapose the fake sun that's remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens all day, and also the entity that's gang stalking in helicopters and planes, and in concert with the people, the population, and what the entity is doing, even as you juxtapose the fake sun reflecting off of the unit number 49's window at Woodside Senior Apartments in Ontario, and at 5:15 p.m. on the same day a year ago, it's outside of my office door as I open my office door at 1810 North Alvarado Street. Zip code 90026. It's not even in the city. It's not even in the county. It's not facing the same direction. All right, the ecological addresses, there is no reconciling. You're not going to see that. What's in LA is not reflecting off of the apartment building of units 49 through 64. This is gang stalking 101. proven through an environment that defies nature, and so does their behavior. Their behavior includes obstruction of justice, and YouTube is not enforcing any legitimate privacy policy. This privacy is an illusion, first of all. Secondly, this privacy policy is, and no policy is going to interfere with an ongoing federal investigation. And YouTube is nothing other than a third party. And the people of the state, the government itself, may not like that. Okay, but that's actually legally irrelevant. And it becomes something where you are then interfering with the federal investigation, and you're doing so while you are profiting off of what people are putting on social media platforms, and you are also at the same time wanting to extend yourself and representing yourself as one that supports and advocates on behalf of people who would be in my situation. Enforcing my rights. And first of all, I have to educate you in order to understand my position that I am enforcing rights that I have and that the government doesn't have. Understand the Herculean feat behind that, how impossible with regard to those sorts of stakes against one person. It is already profound and entirely unfair for any American citizen, for any human being. And then you have the imps online that are speaking to us. You are protecting a government actor that's gang stalking me. The audacity. And I want to be clear, YouTube is not innocent in that. There's a body of evidence regarding what YouTube has already committed. And I want to be clear, YouTube is nothing other than a third party that is a state actor. Third parties are state actors. Third parties are agents of the state. It's not a coincidence that YouTube has committed removing substantial video evidence that's published online right now and was not in any violation in 2020 or in 2021, nor is it in violation of any policy in 2025, nor would it be in violation of any sort of policy on a social platform, any social media platform, including one like YouTube, who likes to extend itself and represent itself as being one that stands up and protects the little guy, who wants to educate the world about something and wants to speak against wrongs that are being committed. Oh, well, they're engaging in and they are interfering with what it is that I'm doing, even outside of communicating within the terms of a prosecution. It's very wrong to engage in gang stalking. And everything about my YouTube channel very clearly speaks to the fact that I'm not out here promoting BBLs. I am clearly exposing that I'm subject to domestic terrorism and psychological torture. It's all over the YouTube channel. I'm referencing federal laws. I'm speaking to a podcast that's speaking to something that's under no circumstances appearing to be fictional or funny. Nothing humorous about that subject. Nothing humorous about in anything that I am documenting. Nothing. You don't even see my face as though I'm taking selfies and I'm showing you what I'm wearing and I'm showing you my boo and where we're eating. Nothing about my YouTube channel or anything that I'm publishing online makes it seem as though it's anything that is less than the severe topic that it is clearly addressing with words that YouTube personnel can understand. This is an unlawful intrusion in a federal investigation. This is, again, the type of things that the ordinary target individual is subject to and is incapable of enforcing themselves. I am the one that's facing it, and I'm the one that's speaking to all of the tragic injustices that the federal government is to blame for. I'm going to prosecute for that. American citizens are losing their lives. They're being murdered. They're being kidnapped by the gang stalking police. They're being harassed and psychologically tortured while third parties on the venue of the internet want to remove evidence to protect those demons, those psychopaths, those sex offenders. And it is very much in compliance with their so-called policies that are actually irrelevant and are not going to interfere with an ongoing federal investigation, where the federal government themselves are interested in benefiting from YouTube interfering with evidence that's published against a gang stalker. That's a domestic terrorist. It's serving and facilitating the government's P.O.C. It's not actually violating YouTube's policy. It's not actually violating. We're operating in reality, not their illusion that people have privacy. This is an illusion. We are all under surveillance, first of all. Second of all, YouTube knows that. They're fully engaged in this social media phenomenon. They are a business that makes money off of this. This is Google I'm talking about. Okay, this is a whole illusion where they're operating and making money, maintaining an ongoing means whereby your mind is always being conditioned. We both have privacy, and you have to respect that privacy, while at the same time they are fully interfering with your privacy. They're doing that in concert with the minions that get on their platform, that steal content from people like me, whom they're gang stalking and monitoring and harassing online, and then they push that content out like it's their idea. Like the Lord gave them that word. Like that's what they got from their tarot card readings. That's what's happening simultaneously. But I want to get back to the prosecution because the entity is doing so, and it's an unlawful interference under all circumstances. And your policies are legally irrelevant. It will be an admission to an unlawful threat against the life of an American citizen. You're threatening my life. You're threatening my safety. These obsessed psychopaths are stalking me in the bathroom. That's how obsessed with me they are. They're using things like helicopters to follow me around and harass me. To try to, I've never been, but they use these helicopters, which is exposing why they're going into mental asylums. But nonetheless, the demon-possessed are under the deception where if they engage in things so psychopathic, like flying in a circle over the apartment building when I start documenting, that's going to scare me into silence, that's going to intimidate me away from documenting, that spectacular act looks innocent. That looks innocent and unsuspecting on its face. These are the lies that Satan tells the demon possessed who are going to be prosecuted. It is with regard to the prosecution of the state of California, the obviously unintelligent and imprudent acts of corrupt actors who were never ever equipped for being exposed for the things that are questionable on its surface. We're not operating within their illusions anymore. All right, you're going to prosecute based on facts and evidence and how things actually are, not this system that creates an illusion of the way that things are, so that third parties who are domestic terrorists like Camden, who was gang stalking me at Alvarado Gardens, has any basis of protection. And when you do that, you're going to get more of a spotlight. She's already going to prison. I don't care where she's at. She's going to prison, and she's engaged in criminal obstruction of justice, as is YouTube, who is a documented terrorist. And you are a terrorist when you're gang stalking by virtue of facilitation. Remember, gang stalking is a term of art. Federal group stalking and monitoring, group stalking is a term of art. It's not just being an elderly on a walker with high blood pressure under the fake sun while you're monitoring me inside of the apartment. Gang stalking is that which you are facilitating. You are a gang stalker by virtue of your criminal act, which is under any circumstances facilitating the U.S. government's pattern of conduct, which is in furtherance of committing murder, kidnapping, very severe in consequences. Your so-called interests do not compete with the interests of an American citizen who has a right to not be subject to terrorism. There is no competition there. You don't have any constitutional rights there. It's not going to happen. In addition to that, you are understood to be what is a gang stalker by virtue of your unlawful conduct. Where it is on a social media platform where I am clearly communicating, I am subject to something very severe. Helicopters flying over me, that's not for funsies. That's not fun. And I'm not talking about, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Look at this, you guys, isn't this cool? There is nothing that I'm communicating in any of my content that I am enjoying being harassed and terrorized. Nothing about the terminology, the words that I'm using is speaking to or conveying the idea that this is fun and exciting and that I'm enjoying the fact that gang stalkers are following me in helicopters and harassing me and psychologically torturing. There's nothing fun about the phrase psychological torture. Nothing. Criminal surveillance is speaking to the violation of privacy. Okay, so regardless of who is being exposed, you are interfering with an unlawful investigation. YouTube has done this for years, interfering with videos about the fake sun in the sky. YouTube has no legitimate interest in what I'm documenting in the sky. Absolutely none. It's not violating any privacy whatsoever. It's literally about the environment, literally about the sky. Now, you want to know why someone would be interested in violating their own policy and harassing me and discriminating against me by interfering with my publishing of evidence? And that's on its face. When you get into substance, you're unlawfully interfering on any basis. But even that, you can look at what they were doing. They were cherry picking my documentation about the fake sun. And you want to know why? Not only is it harassment, because they're protecting the demon possessed who want to suppress my evidence about them, the demon possessed who know the truth that I'm speaking. The demon possessed are a whole population that exists, and they do not want me exposing them. This is the work of Satan. That's why. You are picking on documentation that is as harmless. If a person is crazy, then let them be crazy, because that documentation about a video of the sun in the sky, it's not hurting anybody. My documentation about court papers, documenting being arrested, documenting the summons of the notice to arrive to court, papers, These are the type of things that YouTube removed off of my channel in 2021. No one's forgotten that. That's still sitting on the record. YouTube is a third party by identification, by conduct. They are also a third party actually. They are headquartered in California. California is gang stalking. Gang stalking is happening on the venue of the internet under all circumstances. They are compromised and they are interfering with an investigation that they know very much is ongoing. They know very much. They know very, very well it is underway. And they are not legitimately engaging in what is protecting the privacy of a private citizen. That's a third party. That's a co-defendant who doesn't have any privacy. The government doesn't have any privacy. The government doesn't have any constitutional authority, nor, and this is the significance of gang stalking through the people of the state. That's why you do that. Okay, all of the illusions are being literally destroyed, and I will prosecute with all of the information that they have. The entity is the foolish demons that gang stalk me while I have access to all your social security numbers. I have access to all of your information, your license plates, your apartment numbers, how many kids you have with you while you're gang stalking me, engaging in terrorism, psychological torture, sexual violence. They're the fools that engaged in gang stalking the property manager at Alvarado Gardens, not me. The entity is doing so in furtherance of committing murder. They were gang stalking. It's a very serious crime that Camden is committing while I'm documenting her. All right. So this is the significance of any social media platform. OK, because, again, I'm not going to. YouTube is obviously not a victim, but I'm not just going to hone in and say YouTube. TikTok was doing this. I was on TikTok pulling off videos of what is the plane in the sky. What is the sun, the fake sun in the sky. My documentation regarding being kidnapped by the entity, regarding the court and the police. These are things that on its surface, at a surface level, this was clearly discriminating against my ability to publish evidence about whatever I want to publish online. If I was bent over and talking about, look at my waist to hip ratio, look at me from the backside, look at my new wig, okay, look at how I laid these edges down, something ignorant, then the entity wouldn't have a problem with that. But that's not what's going on here. The entity is also clearly biased. TikTok is a third party in the state of California. YouTube is a third party in the state of California. Gang stalking is underway on the venue of the internet. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with the ongoing knowledge that is being documented. On more than one occasion, just like right now, this is why Camden is going to federal prison, 5:34 p.m. The demons that are gang stalking at 12 o'clock in the afternoon with third-party D-Bunny, licensed D-B-U-N-I. She's gang stalking by residents with the Ontario police who are engaging in surveillance over the apartment building. And they're gang stalking over the apartment building right now while I'm speaking to the criminal engagement and federal group stalking and monitoring on the venue of the internet by YouTube, who engages in that P.O.C. by suppressing evidence against itself. And this is also documented in video evidence. While I'm online publishing video onto YouTube, the same gang stalking police department, the Ontario police, are gang stalking on video. And that's exactly what I am referencing on the venue of the internet where I'm subject to that P.O.C. And that's why you have the simultaneity right now, in the same way that there was simultaneity of helicopter activity while I am publishing evidence on the venue of the internet. So let me remind you about what that was. That was documented on August 21st, 2021 at 11:27 p.m. where I am online. And the entity immediately begins stalking me by helicopter. The same demon-possessed agency, Ontario PD, that's still gang stalking in 2025, 4 years later, on the venue of the internet, engaging in surveillance where they are proving you will be prosecuted for your engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring, where you're interfering with an ongoing investigation, where the gang stalking police are doing so in furtherance of trying to commit murder and kidnapping. And you interfere with that when they do exactly what they were doing on August 21st, 2021, which is already published on YouTube. And it's already published on thisisthepoc.wordpress.com, where you can look at what the entity is doing when you're under surveillance and you're interfering with that investigation by removing that which the entity is surveilling as you publish it online. And it results in what is threatening your life with domestic terrorism. That is being gang stalked by police departments using helicopters. And that's exactly what the Ontario Police Department just foolishly did against YouTube, its co-defendant, right now under the fake sun at 5:34 p.m. while I am documenting, and it is an ongoing confirmation about the unlawful intrusion on an ongoing investigation, which Camden is going to federal prison for. Camden is, again, a third party who's gang stalking me at Alvarado Gardens. So you're going to reference, again, there's a whole playlist. It's referred to as Federal group stalking and monitoring, harassment, discrimination, and other criminal acts of obstruction of justice by entity, and it is online. And the proof of that is the entity that is stalking with activity. And when you're online and you're publishing evidence about gang stalkers, and those gang stalkers then engage in real-time acts threatening you, which is a criminal act of obstruction of justice, in the same way that removing that video evidence that's published online in order to protect yourself, in order to prosecute that corrupt government, that's an unlawful act of obstruction of justice as well. It's an ongoing intrusion into an ongoing federal investigation that YouTube is knowingly engaging in and facilitating it. And I've been subject to an ongoing threat to my life by YouTube for years. They've done the same thing with those same kidnappers. When I'm publishing paperwork about those same kidnappers that are stalking in helicopter right now, and YouTube removed the evidence, made it age restricted, said that it was inappropriate to post. Who is it that I'm bullying when I'm posting paperwork about my being kidnapped? And by the way, even if the entity were to have something that on its surface appears to fit what is some sort of appropriate basis to remove evidence, it is not. It is evidence against the federal government. And YouTube is a third party biased in their engagement in what is removing any evidence, which is essentially against themselves. They're engaged in surveillance online. That's what's happening on social media. They're engaged in what is the theft of my intellectual property that I publish on the venue of the internet. The entity is doing so while an unlawful threat that I'm subject to, 534 helicopter activity, YouTube is going to be prosecuted for that. Okay? YouTube is going to be prosecuted for the ongoing acts for over the years for the unlawful intrusion in this federal investigation. And guess what? The federal government that knows very well what's being published online. The federal government keeps an eye on what's being published online. The federal government is suppressing my evidence online right now. And it's permitting these diaper-wearing demons of the Ontario police to crawl into a helicopter and be over the sky space above me. That's exactly why demons like Jason Isaac Fields are being removed from the position that they currently hold. There is not a legitimate investigation underway. It is the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. It is ongoing facilitation, where the federal government never had the right in the first place to gang stalk under any circumstances. And in case you did not know, that's how the corrupt government engages in what is the openly admitted means of gang stalking you by placing you down as somebody that's being investigated for something and you've never even committed a crime. You're being placed on a terrorist list. You are no terrorist. And who is it that's making the allegations? The very demons themselves, the people of the state, where apparently you can walk into people's offices and just make unsupported, just vacuous statements, and that can get a quote-unquote investigation initiated. There are a lot of laws that need to change. And you need to know that it is not just corruption and demon possession speaking to mental illness and sexual perversion, disqualification, but it is also unethical and corrupt actors. You have to be corrupt in order for this to ever get past your desk. You have to be corrupt. So I just want to point that out. You are not ignorantly facilitating at any level the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring. All right. So the entity is under all circumstances engaging in that P.O.C. And the proof is the ignoramuses of the Ontario police under the fake sun that's still here and not over at the same time. Alvarado Gardens, which is evidence that's going to be published onto the drive. And it's serving for the prosecution of the entity that is on the venue of the internet engaged in gang stalking. As I view content online, as I use my communication device, and even in reference to online venues, I'm subject to real-time psychological torture tactics, such as stalking via amplified noise. Right now, it was the gang stalking police. This is a heavily documented pattern that is pointing directly to the fact that YouTube is a social media platform where the pattern of conduct is underway and facilitated. I've also spoken to this while you are literally using YouTube and you are in operation of the internet, you are being monitored on that website. Okay, the use of ads are the use of the means of monitoring you. You are also being monitored physically. You're under surveillance physically wherever it is that you live and remain or are at, because surveillance is a 24-hour ceaseless thing, and you are on the venue of the internet, and what you are doing is coinciding with the gang stalking, the surveillance that's happening around you physically. There are two venues, the facilitating video of Woodside Senior Apartments, where I'm being gang stalked by the police, as I'm subject to the pattern of conduct on the venue of the internet, and my evidence is being plucked out on unfounded bases, which is an unlawful intrusion of an ongoing investigation against the government that is gang stalking me in literally in real time. Literally in real time. I can't even make up these type of facts. But that is engaged in the pattern of conduct. That's exactly what you're going to utilize in order to expose public corruption, where the government itself is the criminal. The government is the psychopath. The government is literally the waste of resources. That is to be the to be disbanded Ontario Police. Blowing the whistle, again, everybody in units 33 to 64 who are pacing all around under the fake sun that you can see in the images at 5:14 p.m. The Ontario Police participate in it while they are again in a frenzy while I'm referencing what is going to be a prosecution regarding social media platforms where there is no freedom of speech. It's not private activity. And my being gang stalked by helicopter in real time is the evidence of it. And that's not the first time. There's a body of evidence in conformity to that pattern of conduct, speaking to an extensive system of surveillance in the United States. And as you're using the internet, you're learning about what's going on amongst the United States and other countries as you're getting to surveillance that's happening online. It's not just surveillance amongst the demons of that YouTube is headquartered in California. On the internet, there are people that are using the internet in other parts of the world. And you need to understand how this is relevant to what's going on internationally. Okay? That's what inspires a high school graduate that got past the academy to crawl into a helicopter and gang stalk me at 5:34 p.m. Okay, the entity is going to prison and mental asylums. The city of Ontario is doing nothing other than that which the federal government and incompetent and mentally incompetent actors, such as the federal agency, whichever federal agency that Jason Isaac Fields is associated with, not only is he going to be removed from that agency and law enforcement, but it is corrupt and bad seeds like him that incentivize, that facilitate, that enable, that participate in this very criminal pattern of conduct. All right. The entity is doing so. I want to be clear. So what the Ontario Police just committed at 5:34 p.m., this is exactly what they committed on the video that's published online August 21st, 2021 at 11:27 p.m., where I'm being gang stalked in a specific environment at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, where the entity was at that time keeping the fake sun rising over that museum where I was sleeping. And then that's also where I documented the fake sun setting. And that's not west of Tracy Banks' front door. It's not going to create any sunlight inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. It's not simultaneously happening, and none of it is going to be occurring in Los Angeles. Like I documented in August of 2024, I'm moving from Los Angeles where the fake sun is rising and setting, and then I'm going to Monrovia, I'm going to Arcadia, I'm going to Pasadena, and then I'm driving into San Diego. This is where the entity is engaging in this asinine P.O.C, speaking to what is indeed surveillance online. Everything that I'm publishing online, which is documentation against that corrupt government, is subject to surveillance, and it inspires them. It is the ongoing admission that it is indeed surveillance, and that it is that government that's interfering with that investigation against itself. And you're not going to do it through some third party such as YouTube. All right? That's what's relevant to YouTube threatening my life, because that's what it is when you are removing state actors such as Camden, and I'm going to get her last name, while she is gang stalking me, and her information is removed in a video that is published in 2024. So let me get details about that. All right. Camden Stratford. Yeah, Camden Stratford. Camden Alana Stratford. She has an Ohio driver's license. And I published with regard to her threatening my life, her gang stalking me in furtherance of committing murder. The entity is gang stalking me not only in furtherance of ultimately committing murder, but also kidnapping me, seeking to criminally defame me while your neighbors are targeting you in ways in which are inexplicable to the ordinary target individual, in ways in which the ordinary target individual cannot even prove. And you're subject to what is satanic, things that somebody that perhaps isn't familiar with the spiritual realm, they're not acquainted with, and it is something that not only causes them to question their own sanity, but something that it is supposed to sound so bizarre that you are sounding as though you are mentally ill, as the entity vaguely describes that phrase. All right, and it is not mental illness, it's the demon possessed that are targeting you, and they're engaged in what is psychologically targeting you as well in order to criminally defame you. And that's why Camden Stratford is going to prison, wherever this African American demon is at. including while evidence is removed from the record. It's not removed from the record. It's removed from the record that's published online. And because she is, and YouTube is, and the entity is, the government is removing it, she's going to prison for that as well. All right, it's currently 5:46 p.m. This is admitted by the entity that sends an email to me. And this email is speaking to the fact that identifying a third-party group stalker is a violation of the privacy regarding harassment and cyberbullying, and there is no gang stalker that's being subject to harassment or cyberbullying. The entity that is gang stalking, this is exposing again the malice that's underway in the United States of America, that we are not the free society, that we do not have the privacy rights that we claim that we give to our citizens. Again, I'm talking about our government leaders that go across the globe as though we're some leader and that we are inspiring what is the civilized society that we are. This is all an unpersuasive and abysmal failure of that act, as I am an American citizen and I am speaking to the surveillance system that I'm subject to in the United States, the terrorism by my own government in the United States that also is satanic. They serve Satan, and that's speaking to the demise of the United States because they serve Satan. And that's how you have an American citizen being terrorized by its own government. How is that different from what's happening in other third world countries? And the United States calls itself interfering with saving those peoples. No. The United States is doing things that we do not know about, that the United States then lies about on the world stage. The United States is engaging, while that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, will go across the globe and engage in inhumane acts against a whole people, will muzzle and silence that people, bully them, and then promote and publicly speak to something that it maintains some sort of appearance of being a hero in one way or another. That's the character of the entity that's gang stalking American citizens in its own country, and then is also involving itself in international affairs in other countries. That's what the demon possessed that are engaged in this P.O.C. going abroad. That's the type of character that's engaging in that sort of behavior. Okay, so what am I getting at? The propaganda that is given to us regarding conditioning, what's actually the state of affairs, our relationship with other countries. These are things that you do not base your life. You don't sit around worshiping what you're being told on the news. That is not your God. That is not the all-knowing truth. You are being lied to on a daily basis. You're being lied to with regard to the amount of privacy that you actually have in the United States. You're not even told the truth about that. You don't have any actual privacy. That's why the entity is gang stalking me in helicopter while I speak the truth about it at 5:34 p.m. That's why, because there is no actual privacy. And this high school graduate, whoever this demon is that's going to prison, they have no future in law enforcement. The whole department, I don't need to know that demon's name. They're going to produce it. They're going to prison. And the Ontario Police Department is done altogether. But they do so, and they are speaking to what is a psychopathic pattern of conduct, and they think that they've accomplished something because they flew over the apartment building. They're confirming what it is that I'm telling you. You are under surveillance in the United States. The so-called First Amendment right to speech, our Fourth Amendment right to privacy. I want to be clear. This is what, with regard to the warrant required and all, that is literally to condition your mind. If you are not aware about what the Fourth Amendment reads and what it provides to you, you need to read it. Okay? The entity is violating your constitutional rights unbeknownst to you. The entity will be violating your constitutional rights when it plainly just robs them from you and tells you you just don't have them anymore. That's where we're getting in history. That's where we're getting to. That's exactly what we're approaching, where the federal government is gang stalking an American citizen. All right. I want to make sure that this is clear pertaining to the admission of an unlawful intrusion in an ongoing investigation. And this is state action. State action by a third party that is also headquartered in California, that has a very heavily documented pattern of violating its own policies while engaging in what is the unlawful obstruction of justice tactics of removing evidence under any grounds, but they happen to also be grounds that violate their own policies. Inexplicable on the surface. But where you are being gang stalked and you're publishing it on any venue that you can get your hands on because the entity is trying to kill you, literally in real time, gang stalking you, psychopaths that are obsessively, and they don't want that obsession, that psychopathic concern with you to be known. We've already passed that. This is the entity that's gang stalking me in real time by helicopter. And this is the entity that's also at the same time removing my evidence when that level of a threat is waged and experienced by any entity toward an American citizen. That is what is unlawful. And there is no privacy policy
or community guidelines that are going to interfere with your necessity, your right to use any platform and publish it, especially when you are representing the clear purpose, which said platform is supposed to be supporting and advocating the fact that you are subject to that unlawful crime against your human and constitutional rights. All right. And so I want to be clear. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and this admission by the entity that is removing evidence, this admission is provided by YouTube on the date of, it is in an email. It is dated YouTube removed your content on March 25th, 2025. And so I received this admission to an unlawful interference. This is a terrorist whose identity has been protected by removing it. Understand the importance of publishing evidence. It is the difference in understanding the multiple hundreds of videos about the Ontario Police gang stalking me day and night via helicopter and repeatedly kidnapping me, and also repeatedly engaging in a documented pattern of obstruction of justice, just like they did today, April 3rd, 2025 at 5:34 p.m. when I am exposing the fact that they are criminally engaged in federal stalking, surveillance on the video of the internet and on communication devices with the people of the state whom they are not protecting. They are in fact incriminating while they engage in gang stalking by helicopter in the specific environment while I'm documenting them in real time. That is speaking to the illegality that YouTube is committing. YouTube is a third party on a facilitating venue, which is the venue of the internet where surveillance is underway. And this criminal system, this criminal pattern of conduct is facilitated, and I am threatened unlawfully by YouTube when they are protecting a domestic terrorist, somebody that is being documented for committing the crime of federal group stalking and monitoring with the same gang stalking government. Okay, so this is in the letter entitled, we removed your YouTube content, which was sent to me. This is an admission on March 25th, 2025 at 6:01 a.m. And this is video that was captured on May 4th, 2024. So the entity is, again, engaging in what is removing the evidence against itself. And I will be putting the evidence in addition to the legal analysis for every gang stalker, such as Precious Bastillos, who is engaging in what is the shameful act of gang stalking in concert with her children, just like the mental health patients in Unit 41. And she is doing so while she is pacing. This is a demon-possessed psychopath who is pacing while she is crossing path with me in the parking lot at what is a third-party facilitating venue where the entity is keeping the fake sun over me at Alvarado Gardens, like I documented on May 15, 2024 at 2:09 p.m. Now, she is walking and under what is the fake sun that is covered up. You are aware of the fact that the engineer light is always present. This is an entirely engineered environment. So it's not the sun, nor is it actual shade. That's why you have your shade that's appearing, that's why you have your shadow that's appearing in the shade. That's why you have light that manifests in the dark out of nowhere. That's why you have an upright shadow that appears when you are standing under the sun. But your shadow is, first of all, appearing at a distance away from you. You're looking at it like it's a whole other person standing upright looking at you. That's impossible light activity. And that's what Precious Bastillos, a third party at Alvarado Gardens, is engaging in, as I'm documenting it on May 15, 2024 at 2:09 p.m. These two videos are going to be published and given a spotlight regarding the consequences for criminal acts of obstruction of justice. They are going to prison. And YouTube is a third party facilitator, and that is a prosecution of that third party. Okay, and you can even get down to the details of those that are in a position that is requiring federal imprisonment with regard to criminally facilitating a pattern of conduct. It's not just some sort of administrative violation that's going to be overlooked. This is how an entity commits murder. This is how you're silencing and trying to silence the fact that the entity is systematically murdering American citizens. And then you want to try to silence that by suppressing evidence, by removing evidence, on the basis of some superficial idea of privacy that does not even exist. Not only while you're gang stalking, but while this system is underway in the United States. Okay? That's a whole farcical reality. And you're going to burst through that, and the entity is going to be prosecuted for it.
Okay, the entity is engaging in this POC, and this is with regard to the ongoing impunity that is also exhibited by Precious Bastillos, by Camden Stratford, by YouTube itself, the body of evidence with regard to the unlawful intrusion and ongoing investigations by the federal government, the demons going to prison in units 33 through 64 who are under the fake sun, while the psychopaths that are gang stalking, this is Paul Leon, Mike Lorenz, the Ontario Police, this is a corrupt gang stalk, all these sex offenders that are monitoring my genitalia, every syllable that I utter, every move that I make, every time I spread my legs apart, these demons are engaging in monitoring it. Okay? This is the POC that's underway. It's 5:56 p.m. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is the Ontario Police that's flying in circles over the apartment while I'm documenting Camden Stratford and Precious Bastillos. They are doing so under the fake sun, if you recall, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, under this fake sun that's at the same location. Put my finger through that, okay, because it's 5:57 p.m. This is the supernatural environment, and also at the same time, the entity's keeping the fake sun over me at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is speaking to Los Angeles Police Department's criminal engagement in the exact same criminal pattern of conduct, which is intending to obstruct justice, while psychological torture is the purpose of gang stalking using helicopters. This is exactly what I'm documenting in real time on the podcast as I'm speaking to the unlawful intrusion in an ongoing federal investigation via publishing video evidence of gang stalking on the venue of the internet, where surveillance is also underway, and the Ontario Police are engaging in what is gang stalking by helicopter to psychologically torture, harass, and terrorize while they are engaging in what is criminal surveillance on the internet and on devices in concert with the people of the state who are at the same apartment complex where at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the entity is gang stalking by flying over the same exact apartment building when the fake sun is directly over me. This is feet away at the same exact location, and it's not simultaneously in Los Angeles. This is the entity that's engaging in that obsessive pattern of conduct and flying in circles over the with helicopter, is speaking to why people like Corey Watson are indeed going to federal prison. All right, Corey Watson, the significance of his name is he is a third-party gang stalker that is heavily documented engaging in that POC. And this is where the entity is flying over the apartment building because I'm inside of that apartment building. Okay? And why is the fake sun still here at the same address? Because I'm inside of that apartment building. And that's the significance of the pattern of conduct, where you're looking at light that's appearing on the top of this apartment building, and the two apartment buildings are the same height. It is the evidence of what is engineered light, the significance of that engineered light touching the structures where a bunch of demons are living inside of that apartment. They're all going to prison. Units 49 through 64 and units 33 through 48, while the demons, again, are flying in a circle over the apartment building, just like they were in the middle of the afternoon. And I'm standing here in the demon in the dark blue vehicle right here, and the demons were flying in a circle over the apartment building again. That was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Here we are right here, and this is, again, let me show you my, because this is where the fake sun is, right here. It has not gone anywhere, and you already know that. The entity keeps it here after, as I documented, after 6:18, and the inspiration behind the obvious engagement in targeting me is with regard to what the entity knows that I'm documenting online. Mike Lorenz and everyone working for the Ontario Police are done with law enforcement as domestic terrorism is exposed with regard to the federal group stalking monitoring system that they commit in concert with all the gang stalkers who are also monitoring on communication devices. The sun that's in Los Angeles at Alvarado is not creating sunlight on this building.
Sunlight is not occurring between those two adjacent buildings right here, like you saw, where it would be shaded, but you're looking at sun that's somehow appearing on the side of this building when the building they are the same height. That's the pattern of stalking with light. Okay, the entity is doing so with regard to flying over, like I'm documenting. I want you to see the entity that is reflecting off of the same living room window. This is the fake sun where it's not going anywhere. This is the same fake sun that is keeping in alignment with Tracy Banks' same patio glass door when it's over the tree. All right, it's over the tree, and then you're talking about a negligible difference when you're looking at it outside of the same patio glass door. Is clear. The significance of the light activity is the significance of what is identifying demons who are gang stalking in helicopter. That's why you scrutinize the environment. That's how you understand the significance and what the demon possessed who are gang stalking, what they know. That's why you scrutinize that environment. The entity is doing so with regard to a pattern of conduct where that fake sun is remaining at the same exact location. None of this is sunlight. This is all engineered light, okay? And the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct where the fake sun sets and rises here, 7:34 a.m. And it is 6 o'clock, 6:01 p.m. That was P.O.C. Those demons, they've been flying in circles like I was documenting on my podcast. The moment that I come out and they know what I'm doing, those demons fly over and they fly away, okay? I've been documenting them for years. Everyone in this building, federal prison. Everyone in this building, federal prison. Okay? That's impunity while you walk under the fake sun. This is what he was doing earlier in the day. He's on video multiple times. He's going to prison. Okay? As is every other sex offender. All right? The entity is doing so with regard to YouTube's unlawful interference with an investigation on the internet. Where they are protecting the very terrorists and the violent sex offenders who engage in monitoring your genitalia in bathrooms, gang stalking by residents like Camden Stratford is, as I am documenting it and enforcing my rights, by psychopaths who are gang stalking me with helicopters like LAPD are doing, where Camden Stratford is a part of that criminal pattern of conduct. She's going to federal prison. Just as surely as you see the government engaging in surveillance on the internet, which is proven by gang stalking by helicopter while I'm documenting it on my device inside of a private space, and I am subject to harassment and terrorism while the gang stalking police use helicopter to fly over the apartment building in the specific environment. That's not sunlight. Okay, that's called engineer light, and it's framing the same front door in the morning, including at 7:34 when the fake sun is on the opposite side of the same front door. That's P.O.C. It is currently 6:02 p.m. Just to be clear, I wanted you to go ahead and see what I documented on this day. 5:47 p.m. I am documenting on YouTube, so I'll go ahead and get this. This is where the fake sun is, so let me let you hear that. Oh, I have earplugs in. Evidence against the people of the state that are acting via Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime. So first of all, the fake sun is over me outside at as I am walking from my office into the apartment. This is the fake sun that's directly over. This is building 1800 North Alvarado Street apartment. 1800 North Alvarado Street. That's the whole building right there. As I am facing Alvarado Street on the property of Alvarado Gardens, and that's the fake sun as I am walking on that property. And the time is 5:47 p.m. on the same day in 2024. And this is again with regard to analyzing the specific environment. The fake sun that's there at 5:47 p.m. is not in alignment with Tracy Banks' apartment. There's no sunlight that's going to be touching on the gym. That's going to be touching the buildings that are adjacent to each other. They're the same height. There's no sunlight that's going to be touching the face of this apartment building. That's engineer light. It's all sunlight, just like this is not sunlight. It's engineer light. It's engineer light that's covering everything. And that's how you know with regard to the knowledge of the stalkers who are demon possessed and who are monitoring, including online, while they use helicopters to psychologically torture and harass and terrorize me because of the very damning analysis and reality about what I'm exposing about the demons who are gang stalking. And that's what's relevant with regard to even the same day where the fake sun is over me in Los Angeles. They're acting via Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime arriving, engaging in terrorism in concert with the people that say who are pacing. This is crossing a path. They're group stalking in Alvarado. They're under the light source, which remains at the property that is present this morning. And Amazon Prime, this is the entity that's acting together. So I want to be clear because I just want to get this driver who's going to federal prison. But this is Amazon Prime in the same way that Waste Management was with directed light. That's a demon that's using a commercial vehicle while they're engaging in the demonic elements of engineered light stalking the path. LAPD is flying over. This is the light source at the same property where it's at 7 o'clock in the morning. 53114P3. Hi. There's no parking here. This is P.O.C. This is my shadow that's appearing in the shade. Amazon Prime is monitoring.
And they're doing so with LAPD. Hi, there's no parking here. There's no parking here. I'm sorry? You're gonna get something real quick? You can park in the guest. I just want to get them because they're arriving monitoring with LAPD, who was flying over in my previous video, flying over, and this is how Amazon Prime engages in the threat against the targeted individual. Pay attention to how my shadow's just appearing out of nowhere. It's just an illuminating spot with regard to making sure that they can touch me in the shade as I'm walking by, and this is Amazon Prime gang stalking, just like they are here at at Woodside Senior Apartments, when at 5:03 p.m., 5:47 p.m., the sun is not going from 5:03 p.m. here to being over the parking lot at 5:47 p.m. at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles. The entity is keeping the fake sun right here, and Amazon Prime is a heavily documented gang stalker, as is LAPD and Ontario PD, that's gang stalking with the population. That surveillance is ongoing online. You see this fake sun in alignment with me here? This is where it remains, and that's what I'm documenting in Los Angeles at 5:47 p.m. This is where the fake sun remained, and this is impossible light activity. That's impossible light activity. The significance of light is speaking to an engineered environment, which is the ongoing means whereby surveillance is underway. This engineered light affects the operation of communication devices with regard to surveillance, monitoring, demons that are monitoring, maintaining presence and activity in that environment. And the evidence of it is the fake sun that remains, because the fake sun is supposed to be the explanation for all the light. That doesn't work when you're in the dark and that light is present. And all you have to do is scrutinize the environment, and that's why I documented it, for you to know that. As I expose the surveillance system that's underway, the entity engages in what is a pattern of harassment and terrorism, including by helicopter. Okay, and so I want you to see what was documented on this day at 5:47 p.m. It's impossible light while he looks perplexed. This is P.O.C. That's what Amazon Prime is documented heavily engaging in Upland, California. This is not in perfect alignment with Tracy Banks' apartment right here. This is where LAPD is gang stalking me under this fake sun on this day, as I documented previously before 5:47 p.m. And I'm capturing another video because Amazon Prime is gang stalking as they arrive on the grounds in conformity to the pattern of conduct. And the time is relevant because Ontario PD is gang stalking under a fake sun as I'm capturing video while I am in the apartment, and everything that I say and do, both online and inside of this apartment, in concert with the people of the state, is being kept under surveillance. And the psychopaths that are obsessively stalking and monitoring me engage in harassment and terrorism and psychological torture tactics using the means of a corrupt government, such as helicopters and airplanes, flying in circles over a senior citizen complex. It's so loud that it's competing with the television, the air cooler is on, and I'm speaking, and it's that loud, and it's also vibrating the apartment. And it was also ongoing for a prolonged period. That's why I stopped the podcast and stepped outside, and you could see very much that helicopter activity that immediately stopped once I put the camera on that demon, who is gang stalking me, proven by the supernatural phenomenon of the fake sun being in perfect alignment with me at the same time in two different regions. You will see at the 7-Eleven at the intersection of 7th Street and Euclid Avenue, where the entity was maintaining a light source. It would never be here at Alvarado Gardens. Amazon Prime's pockets are going to be drained. This is impossible light on the dumpster, and they are intentionally arriving while I'm documenting inside of my bedroom. LAPD is flying over in helicopter, okay? Amazon Prime has been posing a threat, engaging in the sex offense and terrorism for years, as I've documented it. It is currently 5:49 p.m., and they are acting in concert with the people of the state who are monitoring at Alvarado Gardens. Everybody here is going to federal prison, and that includes Camden Stratford. Okay, Camden Stratford is a gang stalker, and she was gang stalking me as I'm inside of my bedroom, and that's the subject of what I am documenting on the YouTube, which is a third-party facilitating venue where I am subject to that ongoing pattern of conduct, and that pattern of conduct includes removal of what is evidence, not just content that any third-party platform such as YouTube is free to just interfere with and remove. The entity is gang stalking, as gang stalking police officers prove and demonstrate, are creating and communicating an unlawful threat to the life and safety of an American citizen. And YouTube is not ignorantly engaging in this. YouTube has engaged in a pattern of this for years with evidence that has nothing to do with the privacy, the so-called alleged privacy of a gang stalker amongst a citizen, a society where there is no actual privacy at that. Okay, so I want to be clear that this video evidence is going to be used against YouTube. It's going to be used against Camden Stratford and Precious Bastillos, whose video evidence of gang stalking, which is threatening my life, threatening my safety and liberty and well-being, gang stalking me with the psychopaths who are using helicopters while I document it. There are no consequences here, and ongoing surveillance is on the venue of the internet as well. It's currently 6:09 p.m. This is P.O.C.
All right, the video you just listened to is the video of that which you could hear in the podcast and which was continuing for a prolonged period. And the moment that I capture visible evidence of gang stalking, the gang stalking evidence is in the specific environment where a light source remains in the immediate sky space over the person that is being targeted by an entire population. And that light space is, that light source over that person is that which defies the operation of the natural environment. In other words, you're not just stating, oh, the sun is in the sky, so everyone is gang stalking. The sun is in the sky, and the sun is in the sky over one address for an extraordinarily abnormal amount of time at one address. That is what is identifying what is a suspicious environment. In addition to what is the peculiar character of the light, where that sun is remaining stationary over one address. That is what is suspicious about the sun being over one apartment building for the duration of the day, and also light that is not characteristic of what is the product of the sunlight. In addition, there is the pattern, like you could hear in the podcast and like with the video that you just listened to. And by the podcast, I mean when I'm inside of the apartment and I open the front door, I immediately transition into video to capture visible evidence on and I'm going to post that on the YouTube channel. So what you could hear is also converted from video into audio. So to the podcast audience, you're going to hear both forms of documentation, period. But you can hear it as I open the door on podcast, amplified helicopter activity, which was continuing for a prolonged period as I referenced it at 5:34 p.m. And the entity is continuously gang stalking by helicopter. And then at the moment that I step outside, I do convert to video evidence. And this is when the helicopter activity ceases. And that simultaneity of a change in activity, meaning you stop flying in circles over the apartment as I start capturing video evidence of it, it's also speaking to knowledge about what I'm doing as well. You already know about the knowledge of an entity that is targeting me, evident through that environment. Because of that environment is speaking to targeting. The person that's being targeted is the focus of all of those who are targeting that person. The proof of targeting is shown through that environment, which is literally the defiance of how nature operates, okay? The fake sun being over the apartment complex, and the evidence is replete with what is the evidence that I'm even documenting on the same day over me at 5:47 p.m., where Amazon Prime is gang stalking at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles under the fake sun, and the same way that Amazon Prime is gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments under the fake sun, as I documented April 1st at 5:03 p.m. And the fake sun's over the same exact location, as you can see it reflecting off of a windshield in that vehicle, and that off of that vehicle that's parked in the same parking lot in that video that I documented on April 1st. And this is the entity that is engaging in the pattern of conduct. I want to be clear. The 5:47 video of what I documented today, April 3rd, this is time of year analysis. So this is under all circumstances showing you what is a pattern of a remaining, that is, again, a stagnated and idle, i.e. fake sun. It's like putting an ornament on the tree. It's a decoration in the sky. This is speaking to the ability to identify this is where gang stalking is happening. This is where surveillance is happening. And you are also aware of the hallmark that I've also identified, and it is captured in that podcast, in this podcast that you're listening to. But that excerpt of this podcast is the helicopter activity, and it's relevant. Run the tape back, rewind, and return to what it is that I'm speaking about. And I'm speaking about surveillance that's happening via communication devices on the venue of the internet. The entity engaging in a pattern of exhibiting hostility while I'm in the process of documenting and publishing it online, where the third-party YouTube is engaging in what is monitoring, and you're subject to surveillance online. The entity, YouTube, can't make the state fly over me in a helicopter. This is speaking to what is YouTube's engagement in the removal of what is evidence. This is no ordinary video that I'm just putting up for funsies as a matter of my freedom of speech that is, again, bound by YouTube's community guidelines. Okay, this is evidence. This is unprecedented that the government would be acting in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. It is being published on a third-party social media platform, and it is evidence that is again being removed, which is an act of removing evidence, even though it is on a third-party platform. But I also want to be clear with regard to the illusion there, the illusion of
the fact that it is state action. Surveillance is underway on the internet. The website is nothing other than a venue where the government is engaging in surveillance. And that is ongoing documentation proving that pattern of conduct, where I have documented a pattern of being subject to harassment while I'm in the process of publishing things online about the pattern of conduct that I remain subject to real-time acts that are legally analyzed as a criminal obstruction of justice, acts of criminal obstruction of justice, acts committed with the intent to try to harass someone, to try to psychologically torture that person, to terrorize them, to intimidate and threaten them, deter them otherwise from documenting, reporting the entity. That's an impermissible threat. And the Ontario Police Department has been engaging in the impermissible threat for several years, including through kidnapping. And they literally engaged in gang stalking under the fake sun at 5:56 p.m. and 5:56 p.m. and at 5:47 p.m. The fake sun on video, as a matter of video evidence, is remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is, again, Los Angeles is west of Ontario. There is no natural environment that would include the sun being over me while I'm in the presence of an Amazon Prime employee, and you're looking at that sun shining in its brilliance while I'm facing the dumpster in that parking lot at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, facing Alvarado Street, which is facing Glendale Boulevard. That's the Glendale area. That is not over the parking lot, the same sidewalk in front of Tracy Banks's apartment, where I'm walking out and I'm getting the fake sun at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 11 o'clock in the morning. It's in alignment with the same sidewalk outside of Tracy Banks's apartment at 7:34 in the morning. The demons are pacing in front of this apartment by virtue of gang stalking via hauling items into a U-Haul truck. This is the same exact sidewalk in the morning where that documentation is underway. You'll reference the documentation, the video documentation captured yesterday, April 2nd, in order to understand what it is that I'm referring to. But I am generally referencing the enduring remaining presence of a sun that does not, under any circumstances, move to be in any other city or address. It's remaining over the same sidewalk, the same strip of land where my person is situated. And that ability to capture and even see it in the sky space, the immediate sky space. I can't see what's in Los Angeles. We are not all looking at the sun from all across the globe in the sky space. So I can't see the sun that's also over you in Florida while you're looking at it over your house in Florida, and I'm able to see it outside of Tracy Banks's front door at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not what is naturally capable of occurring. And while I am standing at focusing on an exclusive direction, meaning as I open Tracy Banks' front door, I'm facing the direction south. I can't see the sun that would be in any position, meaning it's exclusive because there's only one. So that means the sun is not in any location that is north of Tracy Banks' front door, such as in Upland, California, such as on Foothill Boulevard, over the Vaughn's grocery store, over the Uptown and Country Shopping Center, over the Upland Public Library, where I am documenting the entity keeping the fake sun. It's not over Alvarado Gardens, which would be west of the city of Ontario, in Los Angeles, California, while I'm clearly looking at it over my head, and I'm looking at my shadow, which is on the ground, and I'm looking at the quote-unquote sunlight that's stretching into the apartment door, because the entity is engaging in this unintelligent illusion that that's the sun over my head, and therefore that's sunlight, even though it's impossible for sunlight to appear in that matter on the inside of a building. All right. And creating the pattern of whatever it is that sunlight is touching, and then it's flat on the ground. That's not sunlight. And it's also not that which is appearing everywhere, including north of me, while I'm facing the direction south, and I'm standing at the front door where the sun is not also north of the Woodside Senior Apartments, apartment number 51, meaning it's not in front of me over the top of my head, and it's also not north of me somewhere behind me over the Chase Bank and Upland off of Foothill Boulevard. Obviously, that would require more than one sun. There's a whole body of evidence speaking to the exclusivity of the sun in the way in which the entity is stalking under it, and that's the ability to identify that. And it's also not a coincidence in that specific environment that as I engage in ongoing documentation and publishing
The entity engages in a pattern with the intent to obstruct justice, and the entity will engage in what is a very obvious means of identifying knowledge that you have about what I'm doing as you engage in the hallmark of arriving, and I put that in air quotes because they were already there, they were already stalking, they were already monitoring. They then engage in what is an obvious indicator. Oh, here I am over here, get this documentation of me stalking you in a helicopter, and it is that exclusive. It is that much of a specific admission while the entity is documented in that specific environment, engaging in what is the hallmark of identifying domestic terrorism in the states, in California, using helicopter activity. And that is designed and inherently, that is reasonably calculated to terrorize an American citizen, to psychologically torture them, to psychologically harm them, that is, to harass them and to intimidate, threaten them, with the intent to obstruct justice with regard to the American citizen that's publishing evidence on a venue where they can only, the only means whereby they can get any sort of redress, because the courts are gang stalking. Okay, the courts are facilitating this corrupt system of surveillance. The courts are trying to criminally defame. The courts are trying to kidnap. The courts are the facilitating venues where the fake sun and gang stalking by the police, fire, and ambulance, state actors, and the people of the state that are in the courts and around the courts gang stalking. This is also documented. All right, so this is relevant to the entity that arrives in helicopter, and it means that it's perceptible. And it is in conformity also to a well-documented and published pattern of conduct. So what I will include in, that's documentation that's going against Camden Stratford, and this is why you do not remove evidence that is published on the venue of the internet, while an ongoing real-time threat that is unlawful for any American citizen in this country to be subject to, and what no third party has the right to create by removing evidence where it is clearly represented on that social media platform as something that is vital to their safety, their life, as I am under all circumstances exposing the purpose of my documentation. And it is not for fun. It's not for commentary. It's nothing other than exposing what is an inhumane and unconstitutional and psychopathic pattern of conduct, where a government is stalking in the way in which you heard on this podcast, and which you will see on video, using helicopters to gang stalk me while the entity is hostile to and engages in a pattern with the intent to obstruct justice, while I identify gang stalkers such as Precious Bastillos, who was going to federal prison, such as Camden Stratford, who was going to federal prison, and the entity that is gang stalking on the venue of the internet, and that you are participating, and you are indeed a third-party facilitating actor, and you're facilitating gang stalking. In case you are not understanding what that means, you are gang stalking, where your conduct is reasonably in furtherance of the whole purpose of gang stalking in the first place, to conceal that pattern of conduct. You are concealing it when you are removing evidence of gang stalking conduct that's underway. And the entity is doing so while my life is being threatened in real time while I document this on the podcast. And so that is ongoing evidence that is putting Camden Stratford and Precious Bastillos, gang stalkers whose evidence of their criminal engagement in that P.O.C. in conformity to the pattern of conduct with the Ontario Police Department, with the Los Angeles Police Department, is being published online, and it's being removed offline. And that's an unlawful and unconstitutional interference. There's no privacy rights or protection with regard to interfering with this level of conduct by the state. And that is state action that YouTube is engaging in. And it's not the first time. There is also an ongoing documented connection regarding the terrorism that I'm subject to and my publishing on the venue of the internet. That is that P.O.C. Because surveillance is underway online on the venue of the internet. Okay, so it is not a forum for where free private speech is underway, where the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking is being published, and you are doing nothing other than documenting that pattern of conduct that you remain subject to on the venue of the internet, and it is up to and including any unlawful intrusion onto an ongoing investigation that is going to be treated with dignity and appreciated in federal courts and under federal law. Where the United States is engaging in surveillance in the way in which it's been proven that it is. All right. It's currently Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. And I am going to include the video evidence that was removed from YouTube. This is, again, Camden Alana Stratford, who was gang stalking me with LAPD, the ongoing amplified audible activity of that which is impossible to hear while she is living in a third floor apartment adjacent to me. And so that would be what is a shared wall, not a shared floor space. And the apartments are not so shoddy, not so cheap, where you're talking and you can hear the conversation through the walls, in the same way that when you're walking, it's not causing earthquakes and loud boomings and cracking the walls and the ceilings. The entity is amplifying the gang stalkers who are surrounding me, and this is what Camden Alana Stratford is engaging in, while her gang stalking presence is amplified into my apartment when I'm documenting her. And she is doing so while the LAPD is also gang stalking me, together engaging what is psychological torture, criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, doing so both as the state acting directly and vicariously. And Camden Stratford is not acting by herself. Marie Ennis is her roommate. The entire property, Alvarado Gardens, is gang stalking, as the body of evidence proves that, in conformity to a pattern of conduct where they're under the fake sun that's rising and setting. And that's exactly what Woodside Senior Apartments is engaging in. And it is such a clear pattern of conduct that it is the identification of demonic activity, because the environment is supernatural, and so is all of their behavior. While demons who don't want you to be able to identify them, know them, they don't want you to know about their mental illness, which is caused by their spiritually dark condition. This is demon possession that is inspiring the criminal conduct of what is this gang stalking system. And it is also exposing what is criminal surveillance, which is also underway through satanic means, because there's a fake sun over you in whatever state you're in the United States of America. It is currently 7:14 p.m. This is P.O.C. The following video is recorded on May 4th, 2024 at 2:47 p.m. And this is the documentation regarding the gang stalking that I remain subject to at third-party facilitating venue Alvarado Gardens Apartments, where I both resided and where I was the employee as the community manager at the apartment complex, and remains subject to the pattern of conduct that Speaker Companies, Inc. is also engaged in, while I'm subject to the P.O.C. also inside of my apartment, which is what I'm documenting in concert with the people of the state, particularly the defendant, who is the subject of the video, third party Camden Alana Stratford, whose birth date is what is her birth date? December 2nd, December 2nd, 1998. This is evidence that was removed, and I am including it on the podcast, and the link to view the evidence, to view the video, is going to be available to select and view in the description box of the podcast. Currently 2:47 p.m. I want to document the sex offense that's committed by the people of the state that are acting in concert with the sex offenders and the group stalkers that are engaging in, this is corporate invasion of privacy together, which is the practice of what is demonic. These are demons that are surrounding the LAPD, are demons that are surrounding repeatedly and in a manner that can be perceived to also communicate a threat and to harass as an entity via helicopter. They're stalking right now in the absence of any audible activity creation in the form of a helicopter. So understand that. I want to document the sex offense in relevant position to me. So by that, let me be specific. On the opposite side of my bedroom wall here is apartment 1804, number 5. These are the third-party group stalkers, Marie Ennis, who you saw group stalking, crossing path, communicating a threat, demonstrating impunity and malice under the light source that was directly over my head, while at the same time the LAPD is crossing path, flying in relevant position in helicopter, and they are literally engaging in what is a show of impunity. Those demons were flying around repeatedly in helicopter in this particular video that I just captured less than 3 days ago. And Marie Ennis, this is an African-American female, very tacky hairstyle, and she has on shorts, very immodest, entirely engaged in what is demonic, and also tasteless in doing so. But not that there's any proper way to dress when you're group stalking somebody, but nonetheless, I'm going to critique her because she's also a demon and a sex offender, monitoring with LAPD, and that's what they're doing while they're living in relevant position. So I just want to show you, this is the bedroom wall. This is called relevant positioning. They're group stalking underneath
and the entity is group stalking by helicopter and airplanes flying over. So I just want you to see that. With regard to what is the sex offense that's underway in concert with LAPD, it includes Camden Alana Stratford, and this is her image. This is the driver's license that I have on record based on her criminal act of moving into the crime scene, which was in November of 2023. She remains a part of the state's criminal pattern of conduct, and this is a demon. And so is her roommate, Marie Ennis, who you saw on video group stalking. You also saw this demon group stalking. She was doing the exact same thing. She was crossing path this is a demon-possessed individual. She had a grin on her face. Like I said, these are the ticking time bombs that are surrounding you, getting gratification while she's engaging in highly mentally deranged and terrorizing conduct, criminal activity. She's also aware of the fact it's being documented. Nonetheless, all the hallmarks are present. The light source is over my head. And this is already part of the record. So the time and date is, I can't recall it right now directly, but this is captured already. And this is a matter of documentation, literally what she's doing. She's crossing path, carrying boxes in her hand. She's entirely a demon with a grin on her face, while LAPD is doing the exact same thing, crossing path in a helicopter in concert with the demon that's crossing path in the engineered light that's covering the property, and the light source is over my head. And again, this is in the afternoon. These are third parties that share a wall with me. And this is a demon that's on the opposite side, engaging in what is ongoing corporate invasion of privacy, pursuant to what is a pattern of conduct that these are demons whose noise creation in an apartment adjacent to mine, where their walking sounds like boom, boom, boom through the walls, which again is amplification. Everything that a demon does is inordinately loud, which is again inherently harassment by the entity that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The entity that is group stalking you is a demon possessed one who is amplifying audible activity consistently, ceaselessly, also pursuant to a demonic behavior pattern, with simultaneity to what the target individual does, with simultaneity to what the target individual does on a communication device on the internet as well. Also with the criminal purpose to communicate hostility, aggression, while you are also aware of the fact that you're being documented. That is also a part of that's the demonic feature of the pattern of conduct, which is speaking to the public safety concern. So I just want you to see the face of this. This is by the way, again, this whole Black Lives Matter theme that you hear a lot in California. I want to be clear. There's a criminal system that is not being addressed when you are hearing such narratives. Not to say that there are not those of minority races that have not been unlawfully killed by the hands of law enforcement, but there's a whole dynamic, and I want to be that I'm not going to mince words. That is a narrative that is serving as a distraction. I have documented over the years. Let me be clear. My family, I don't want to say family. My blood relatives are Black. Okay, some of them black as night, and I can say that as a Black woman, very dark skinned, and they are group stalking and monitoring, acting in concert with law enforcement, having the same criminal purpose to target someone of their same race. I'm Black as well. So you have Black people. This is why it is not about race. Okay, this is has nothing to do with what are the superficial means of separating people. Okay, which is a distraction. Satan doesn't want you to acknowledge his existence. Satan doesn't want you to acknowledge the reality of demonic activity and demon possession, and it's very real. Okay, so the reality is, the truth is, people, human beings, we are not separated by race and socioeconomic status. That is actually superficial. These are barriers that are created by human beings, okay, for their own selfish gains, yes, but the reality is, the truth is, that actually has nothing to do with the reality. We are separated by those who are in darkness and those who are not in darkness, those who are in the light. And I want to be clear, the demon possessed of any and all races, ages, physical handicaps, none of that has anything to do with whether the spiritual condition, the condition of those that are engaging in this criminal system, and it is demonic activity. And those that are Black are monitoring me with law enforcement, which again, it directly rebuts what is this narrative, which is serving as a distraction. All right. It's serving as something that's tearing away from what is actually occurring in the state of California. I won't talk about the rest of the states, but like I said, the evidence speaks for itself by virtue of the pattern of conduct. The entity is engaging in a demonic imitation of the natural environment. So it begs to differ. Let me be clear. There was no eclipse while I captured the light source all day long. in April of 2024. There was no eclipse. You saw the light source. I captured it all day long, all day. The light source remained over me here. That light source is nowhere near the state of New York at all, while it remained over me, rising and setting at the same address where I remain, which is the ongoing documented pattern of conduct. You are never deviating from that. There is no getting out of what is the ongoing group stalking system while the entity is aware of the fact that you're documenting it and doing nothing other than continuously exercising demonic control of the unnatural environment. It's never the natural environment, whether you cover up that light source or not, ever. And they're still stalking. Okay, so like I said, the entity is acting with African American people. It has nothing to do with race. And much of what you have seen on the news, the demon possessed that use such things as race to distract you and take you away from what is otherwise connecting them. And they are engaging what are targeting people together in concert, while on the surface having these differences, serving to separate us and also create what are distractions, so that is actually throwing you off the trail with regard to what the demon possessed population is actually engaging in together, what the agenda is together in this country. They have an ongoing agenda to keep you under surveillance, keep you ignorant to that, keep you focused on any and everything, getting your so-called bag, getting up your follows, your likes, or whatever it is that you're distracted with, which life is not about. I'm gonna digress there, but this is just so preposterous to me. You have people, I have seen them, African Americans, and they're group stalking, they're targeting me, they're harassing me, they're lying on me, they're terrorizing and engaging in what is this criminal system against me, a Black woman, and they're Black as well. It has nothing to do with that. And this demon is in relevant position, engaging in what is group stalking in concert with the rest of them of different races. Okay. It has nothing to do with that. So I just want to point that out. And while LAPD is doing laps, just like I have the list of just doing laps back and forth over my apartment, these demons that live in relevant position are engaging, just like you saw Julia Alvarez de Lopez, Maria Mercado. They're pacing all around outside in traffic. They're engaged in ongoing activity creation, and a part of that activity creation are the demon possessed that are living in relevant position. They are maintaining noise inside of the apartment pursuant to what they all know that I'm doing. These are demons that are surrounding, engaging in what is ceaseless activity creation in concert with the state that is using helicopters to engage in stalking somebody. It is outright demented. And it is entirely criminal. So I just want you to see the face of this demon who's engaging in that. Her name is Camden. She's Stratford. She's going to federal prison. Her and her roommate have directly engaged in the P.O.C. With LAPD under the light source, all matters of the hallmark present. The ongoing body of evidence of what is a light source in an entirely different region is evidence against the entire entity, including Camden and Marie specifically. They're going to federal prison. All right. And they're engaging in an ongoing sex offense and criminal facilitation of that sex offense, while all of the entity is acting in concert with them. But I just want you to give an example, because what they're doing, sharing a bedroom wall, which is nothing other than amplification. They're listening to everything that I'm stating now. This is corporate invasion of privacy. And they're doing so and also engaging in what is federal stalking on the venue of the internet. Okay. In the same way that I work and I have access to the information of pay stubs of those that are applying for housing, the social security numbers, the former residences, the bank accounts. This is all information that the people of the state that are group stalking in relevant position on the roads and the highways, in plane and helicopter, living adjacent to the property, all of those, even living at the property, it is a violation of the rights, the privacy information of those that live on the grounds, while that is relevant to those who are receiving federal housing benefits, applying for federal housing. This is built into the criminal system that the entity is engaging in, while they're monitoring on all of my communication devices. All right, they're doing it in the workplace. And this is, again, the criminal conduct of Speaker Companies, Inc., the property management company, Todd Speaker, the owner, and each and every employee who are also group stalking. They're engaged in federal stalking together. Okay. And they are all together witnessing me expose that. That's why you have, again, that frenzy, psychotic conduct. As I documented that and literally specifically articulated it, because I'm already documenting that. Just because I don't speak to it directly doesn't mean it has not already been thought of, that it's not already demonstrated through the evidence. What the federal government would automatically put two and two together when you're engaging in this criminal system. Oh, you're engaging in a whole body of, a whole other federal violations of a whole other body of federal statutes. So you're inherently violating that. All I did was say the words, and the entity went psychotic, engaging in what is flying over 24 times, I believe that was that day, just going psychotic. And you can look at the increase in helicopter activity, literally as I stated those words. And it's not, LAPD is just engaging in what is the communication shared by the entity. The demon-possessed that work for speaker companies, they're all outraged as well. They all know what I'm exposing about them at the same time. And so the entity poses the highest threat by doing it through the demons flying helicopters, which is evidence against every single last employee, against speaker companies, against every single last third party. It is to their own demise. Nonetheless, it is the demonic behavioral pattern, which is speaking to what is inherently terrorizing. This is the criminal system. All right. So I just want to be clear. I'm subject to what is that ongoing harassment while a sex offense is underway. It's a sex offense, group stalking the target individual inside of the private space. All right. It's also engaging in what is a whole body of federal statutes are simultaneously being violated while the entity is monitoring me, while I go onto the DMV website, while my private information is made public, while I am going into my bank account, looking at how much money. Let me be clear. The entity Chase is group stalking in relevant position. Chase Bank, that's who I bank with. They're also engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet. They are inherently violating surrounding federal laws that govern the way that they're supposed to conduct business and manage your personal private information. And let me be clear, they're not a victim while I'm pointing this out. I've already documented Chase in Upland, California. They were monitoring me there. Chase in Upland, California is nothing other than one example of what the entire state is engaging in the state of California. My coming to LA, an entirely different region, capturing the pattern of conduct is demonstrative of that. Okay. It is again 3 p.m. This is P.O.C. just documenting what is the sex offense committed by demons who are surrounding. This is just while I'm remaining inside of my apartment. What Camden and Marie are engaging in a relevant position, all of the apartment complex is engaging in. They're all maintaining real-time knowledge, engaged in corporate invasion of privacy as an entity, engaged in federal stalking. They're all engaged in terrorism while LAPD is just doing laps, flying in circles like psychopaths over and around my apartment all day long, even while they are aware that it's being documented. Okay, that is to the demise of the whole state. To the whole state, provides that evidence. The whole state's going to be prosecuted for that. Again, it is 3:01 p.m. and this is P.O.C.